Hey y'all, thanks for being here, if you're here. A little less good content than I usually do. But we're going to start the Reverie Roundtable in just a moment. Hopefully you enjoy. One second. One second, guys. Hey y'all. Can anyone hear me? Testing.
Hello.
Hey, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear us?
Fantastic.
I might get a, just so you know, I might get a work call.
Okay.
And then it'll put a step away for like 5 minutes.
For sure.
Unacceptable.
Well, is there like a single unemployed mother who like refuses to leave her apartment? Like, we're gonna get her.
She keeps coming. Hold on a second. She keeps coming up with excuses, right? She's like, "Oh, please, like, I don't throw away my medicine. I need that." And it's like, you shouldn't have left it in the place you're getting evicted then from, fucking dummy, right?
Out of the way, Grandma.
Out of the way, Grandma. We got to change the locks on this bitch. That's exactly right.
Rough. Fuck grandma, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe Grandma should pay her rent next time. Maybe that
Damn
won't happen
right. Damn right.
Should have worked harder in life.
Corey, we don't hear you. So if you can hear us, we don't hear you. No, we don't hear you. Hopefully he'll come back out, leave and come back in or something. But fantastic. There you go. Hear you. Corey? We heard you for a second.
Uno momento.
Yeah. But all right, so we're just waiting on Corey and get his Canadian tech working. But you look handsome.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you. Mm-hmm.
Okay, now I can hear you. Sorry about that. That was weird.
Yeah, man, no worries. I was gonna say to Gibbs, you look handsome. I like the hair, you know?
It's the lighting, bro. We've got the lighting fixed, and now I look way better. Thank God.
No. It's not the. I mean, maybe it's lighting, but like your hair and I don't know. You look kind of sharp. You know? I don't know.
Oh yeah, thank you. I think it's also not having the headphones on. I could play with my hair and shit now.
Okay. All right. Are you
be very vain?
Do you go to like the salon?
No, I have my barber come here to my house. We do barber streams.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
That's actually dope as hell, dude. That's fucking awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
That's unexpected. But all right. Well, the person's doing a good job.
Yeah, my granddaddy told me when I was younger, he was a little racist, but he was like, son, always have a Jewish banker and always have a African-American barber. Those weren't the words he used. And you'll always be rich and you'll always look good. And I was like, all right, Daddy, that's good advice. So, I followed these pieces of advice to this day.
Do you use the same terminology as your dad?
This is my great-granddad, So
Your great-granddad? So you use that same terminology?
I did not use the same terminology.
Okay.
I only care about one color, and that's
when you were searching for one. Hey, are you?
Yeah, that's a strategy.
But okay. Well, hold on. Do you have a Jewish like accountant or something? Is that a thing?
Oh yeah, he's got like a last name with it's got like Stein or something in it.
Stein or something. But like, but maybe he's just only culturally Jewish, right? Did you like check if he has like a yarmulke on his head or something?
Listen, my money says that he's actually Jewish, so whatever.
Okay. All right.
If it didn't work, we go to the next one. Like my ROI wasn't going too good. We go find somebody else.
Okay. Wow. All right. Well, I feel like it's probably best I don't explore this anymore with you. But
Yeah, simple, basic business. You can ask Kanye about it. I don't know.
These views and opinions are of Gibbs only of the Prime Kai
Hey,
channel.
for
does
the
not
record, I was the
endorse
one advocating for this. Hey, if anything, you should keep him around. You're gonna get richer.
these. Great.
Unlike Kanye.
We-
Unlike
we-
Kanye.
Indeed. Indeed. We'll just leave that alone. Okay. All right.
Yeah, once the Diddy support dropped, we had that conversation about potentially buying Yeezy clothing. Can't do it. Not after the Diddy stuff. Like I can wear some shit ironically. Defending Diddy? No, can't do it.
Wait a minute. The black community saw this a long time ago. This is why this is what happens when you only wear FUBU. You're not actually us, right? You don't embody us. No, the black community saw this coming a long time ago, right? You're not gonna like this part, but like when he started doing his Trump support, right? When he went MAGA, yeah, we saw this trajectory coming a mile away. Now, you may say, well, of course, MAGA isn't Nazism. It's not, right?
Hold on. I don't know about Diddy and MAGA being
This was the exact trajectory. We saw him losing his mind. Well, yeah, like when he talked about like how slavery, right? Like slavery was just a choice, guys, right? It's only in your head. You only chose
that's funny.
The chains, right?
I can get over the Nazism shit. He's defending a literal like pedophile. I can't like
wait.
That's not funny.
Wait, hold on.
The slavery thing was kind of funny, right? I can't.
Hold on. Your levels of degrees go like, oh yeah, we can get over the Nazis, but with Diddy too far.
So much so.
I'm not saying one is worse than the other, but if I had to wager, probably the Nazism ranks a little higher than the Diddy.
No. First of all, be careful about like how your hand, how far it goes up right there.
Yeah, don't worry.
But
I'm not doing no outreach programs over here.
Look, I absolutely think that pedos are worse than Nazis, right? 100%. No, that doesn't go like universally, right? Like if you like Hitler was probably worse than Hitler was worse than like some mild.
Who was worse, Jeffrey Epstein or Adolf Hitler?
Hitler, he killed more people. I'm saying just like your run of the mill like Nazi you see on the street, the guy who just has some like really bad opinions about.
How about like people. Dr. Mengele or whatever? Who's worse, him or Epstein?
Again, if we're talking about like the World War II era Nazis where they were actually like doing horrific shit on people, the real ones as opposed to the modern ones, which are
the ones that Kanye is advocating for.
Yeah, the modern ones are just they have like they have like synthwave posters in their apartment.
No, they have the Aryan Brotherhood. But like
I know, I'm not saying that. Like, I'm not defending them. I'm just saying that compared to child sex, compared to who we know we're talking about here, they're not as bad as them, by and large, I would say.
Listen, I'm going to break this down for you, all right?
I'm not saying they're good people. I'm just saying comparatively.
Listen, this is going to sound, here's a hot take. Anyone, even like, let's just with Epstein is the like S tier of diddlers, right? He like had the island, he had the operation, he's like maybe the cartels that are up there somewhere. All right, they're bad, but there's like a max level of like bad that those guys could do compared to, I don't know, the fucking Nazis. I'm just saying, this seemed like
there's really no upper limit on bad for any of these people, right? Like, let's say Epstein like developed a worldwide cabal, like that'd be really bad. He didn't.
He had like a fairly big cabal.
Yeah, look, I think he wanted to.
He probably wanted to, right? I mean, that was probably his aspiration. I'm just saying, like again. The modern day Nazis are just like they're just trailer people, and they don't really do all that much besides say hateful things.
They're practically teddy bears. No, yeah, we get
it. Look, I'm just saying you can ironically support the Nazis, whatever. I don't think you can do that when it comes to the pedos. I think Diddy was too far. I can't.
I mean, most of the Diddy stuff isn't even the pedo part of that. Like with Diddy, it's like the blackmail and the clapping the cheeks of other celebrities and organizing. Like, I mean,
I think most of it's the pedo stuff.
I don't know about that.
I don't know. Have you heard the Meat Bill video? If you heard that, you might disagree.
Maybe when you come out more, when more comes out. So like, I observe the ability to change my mind on this, but like it sounds like to me in each way, and most of it was just like grown women that they were assaulting, and we didn't care about that like as a society at first. But there were certainly children involved, but it sounded like from his recruitment efforts, right? Like hearing about that, like he wasn't opposed to like a kid like getting in there, right, and just like not asking questions, right? That seemed to be like the big thing, just to, like really like not ask questions about it. Um, but it like from the people who've been coming out, right? Like the people who've talked so far, it's been people who've saying, "Well, I was an adult at the time," but like violated. And then of course men too, right? Like as well. So, but I don't know. I don't know. Maybe there was a bigger ring, of like child molestation happening than I'm aware of. But we'll see. Yeah, that's just my sense of it all.
Yeah, that's the assumption I was under, Prime, from what I've understood.
Yeah.
Of the cursory details that I know, that's my understanding. But I've like maybe read like a paragraph.
Blackboy's got his special source apparently over here that we need to get. Yeah. What's the
Special source?
Yeah,
Look, I don't like this conversation because like there's no way I win. It's like I'm not trying again. It's like I'm trying to demonize the child people, like the bad people.
Okay.
But like I'm not saying that I agree with the Nazis.
Bad hypotheticals from last week.
No, last week I was right.
No, that
so
is
right.
No,
so right. And Gambit, if you're watching, thank you.
I will ask you a question. I'll ask you a question on that. Okay. Do you think it's possible? Do you think it's possible with code alone to make a random number generator?
With code alone to make a random number generator, yeah.
Yeah, you want to put money on that?
Well, what if I go on Google right now? I can look up a random number generator, and I'm sure that was made through code.
You can
right?
look up a random number generator, an actual random number generator.
Let me look it up. Hold on.
So to help speed this up, right? I think what Corey was getting to, and what I didn't talk about last week, is that our random number generators are like pseudo random.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So pseudo random, they're random for our intents and purposes, but like there's like an algorithm that goes into it, and like there's different ways of like simulating randomness when it's like not quite randomness, and like that's what like our programs are.
It's like philosophically impossible. Okay, at least as far as I wish I knew this at the time. I didn't know how stupid that answer was from Gambit when he said, "I just look at the code and see it's a random number." When I asked the question, the hypothetical, could you even actually make a random number generator that gives all of the same answers over and over? He said, "Yeah, sure, of course, because I'm not an idiot." But actually, if I were, I don't know if he's self-employed, but if I were like his manager, like I would fire him on this. Like you don't know.
So hold on. Whether or not, so I'll look more into this. I'm not super familiar with if random number generators are truly random or if they're mimicking randomness to some like crazy degree. But none of that changes. Like you could wrap your head around the idea of like a hypothetical random number generator, one that truly is like the quantum level, like selects a random number. And then for the last 10 times, it happened to pick the same number.
Well, hold on.
Whoa. Because now he's changing the hypothetical. The hypothetical was it always give the same result or 200. Okay, now you downgrade.
No, it did always give the same. Yeah, it did always give the same result, either at 10 or 200. It doesn't matter. The number could be 12 billion.
No, it actually does matter. Actually, so like go with the 200. Okay, if a computer simulation was flipping a coin every half second, so twice a second, and how long do you think it would take for it to get 200, let's say, tails or heads in a row? Do you have any intuition on what that time scale is?
If it flipped 1 a second?
Or even 2 a second. We can double it.
I mean, if you're really lucky, it could happen in 200, or I guess in this case, 100 seconds.
Yeah, but what do you think? You can calculate the probability.
Yeah, it's very low probability, but if you got really lucky...
What is your intuition in terms of what that probability is?
Longer than the age of the universe.
Yes, by orders of magnitude.
By orders of magnitude, yeah.
Right. And so it is pretty much a ridiculous hypothetical scenario to especially equate it to outcome, to say that it's always, like, if you don't see any contradiction there and that's a bad hypothetical, then that your logic is
wait.
I just want to know what we're yelling at you for.
We're rehashing some shit.
All right.
Corey. Do you think the trolley problem? Do you think that's a realistic situation that's ever happened?
Yes.
Or
Yes,
back to
absolutely.
hypotheticals.
You think
It's
the trolley
absolutely
problem has
happened.
happened?
Well,
That
in terms
there's
of
been
phone-
10 people tied to one trolley
Depends on
and
how you
one
frame
person
it.
tied to. Hold on, no, I'm not talking about how you frame. I'm talking about the classic trolley problem where it's 10 people tied to
absolutely
one
happened.
track and one person tied to the other track, and like a random person is just standing there, and they could turn the lever to shift the train from one track to the other. Has this ever happened?
Absolutely. It's
In
100%
that
happened.
way you framed it, unlikely, but that doesn't address my point in terms of just the philosophical contradiction of saying that an tying a random system to an always the same outcome. If you don't think there's any contradiction there whatsoever.
I think you're misunderstanding. I'm saying if it is the case, so it's an if and, right? It would be the exact same thing of like saying, I eat breakfast every single day. I never skip breakfast. Let's say I tell you that, Corey. I never skip breakfast. And then you were to say, well, if you didn't eat breakfast today, what would you be? Now, the correct answer here is hungry, not, well, I eat breakfast every single day, so the likelihood of that is 0. That could be true. The likelihood of me skipping breakfast could actually be 0, but that doesn't change the hypothetical. The question is, if it is the case that you hit,
no, your hypothetical is not self-contradictory. That's the problem with the hypothetical. Why do you think it's so difficult or pretty much
We
impossible
did this
now?
last week, Lactoid.
Yeah.
We did this last week. You gave me the hypothetical.
and
I engaged perfectly with you, and I told you the only reason, the only conceivable reason in the world demonstrated was that there was a God that made it so. That's literally the only conceivable reason, because otherwise you couldn't give me a conceivable reason. You can't give me a single logical reason.
I could give you I will.
Give me one. Give me one.
Okay, it's a 4-letter word. Okay, you ready? Luck. You could be extraordinarily lucky and get heads 200 times in a row.
So you're woo-woo when it comes to crystals and things like luck. Luck can be a thing and a factor in
what is luck?
Racism.
What is luck? What is luck?
It's a woo-woo force. It's an energetic force.
It's an energetic force?
At the very least.
I agree.
It's like
a woo-woo force, specifically.
Yeah, at the very least. Like, listen, I'm a lucky guy. I attribute a lot of my shit to luck. That just means, like, I think God has my back. I feel like God has my back. I'm one of the chosen ones.
Luck is when you get heads 10,000 times in a row with a perfectly random coin.
I engaged with you perfectly, Lactoid.
Wait, Aiko, it's luck. You would agree that'd be lucky, right?
Yeah, I didn't hear the first part. I don't hear your question.
Well, no, maybe this is good. Maybe you're gonna agree with me then. So it's luck. So you would agree that a sufficiently lucky person could get 200 heads in a row on a truly random coin.
No. Yeah, but the odds of that happening, you can calculate the odds of that happening, right?
Extraordinarily low. Extraordinarily low.
Extraordinarily low. And the odds that you calculate for 200 flips of a coin, right, would be the odds of you being right in that argument.
that I agree with.
Yeah, and every time you flip a coin,
debate coach.
Yeah, well, that's what we're talking about, right?
We're talking call that hook, line, and sinker.
You think it's fair?
I made this point at the time as well.
No. So, Lactoid, how do you know that something is random? Just on principle, how can you tell whether something is random?
I don't think there's any way to know for sure whether something is random.
Okay,
there's no consistency.
Can I finish my argument in terms of, like, generally speaking, as a casual definition, we fair to say that something is random is unpredictable.
Sure.
Okay. Now, do you think it's fair to conjure up a hypothetical where the result is predictable and describe it as random?
I guess it depends on to modify, it depends on like what you mean. Like if you flip a coin, it's predictable that you will get heads or tails. Like there's 2 options that are predictable.
That wasn't hypothetical. You said always black people.
Well, right. That was the hypothetical. Hypothetically, right, if you flip a coin that's purely random, it's unpredictable if you're going to hit heads or if you're going to hit tails every time. But if 200 times has passed and you've hit heads every single time, it's also the 201th time is equally as unpredictable as any 201th, whatever. Is equally as unpredictable as the whatever.
You're right.
As the prior 200 times.
The odds are always 50-50 in a vacuum in a coin.
Yes. Yep.
If you encounter that on the 199th occurrence, okay, would you ever describe, like, what is the more reasonable conclusion? Okay, that is, we're dealing with a random system or there's something else occurring.
in reality, it would be that something else is occurring.
Yeah, this is Occam's razor.
Yeah,
And
but the hypothetical was controlling for any dishonesty.
But it's not though, because again, it's
It was because I made the hypothetical, and I'm saying it does.
Contradictory hypothetical.
Yes, that's the ultimate argument, right? Is that if you agree with both premises, and what you're saying is you must accept both premises.
Yeah.
But what you're basically saying is you must accept contradictory premises, right? That it is both. This is, it is both predictable and not predictable at the same time.
Yes, exactly.
No, but it wouldn't be. It wouldn't be. Hold on, but you can at least you can fathom the idea of winning the lottery, right? Despite the fact that it's extraordinarily low, but somebody wins it, and there are people who've won the jackpot, right?
Yeah.
So if I tell you, imagine you've won the jackpot, are you going to argue with me about the odds?
I would argue about the odds if someone won the jackpot 200 times in a row, the same person.
No. Even winning it once, even winning it once you have a higher chance of being struck by lightning. It is extraordinarily low chance. I'm asking you,
because the thing that you're predicting.
If I say, imagine hypothetically you won the lottery, this would be an unreasonable hypothetical by your standards.
No, it wouldn't, because the thing that you're predicting is that someone wins the lottery, right? The odds of someone winning the lottery at any given percent is like 40%, right? It's 40% chance. I'm just making that up, but that sounds right to me. That 40% of the time somebody won the lottery that time, right? But there was somebody recently who was the chief lottery person in that country. I need to look it up because it just happened. It was just reported on today. And that person won $85.6 million and immediately resigned. So a reasonable person would look at that and say, we need to at least investigate to see. And also that lottery ticket that he won off of, he had sent to him by courier. So
sure.
Again, the odds are overwhelming that this is not now. It's possible that he just did that not knowing if it was truly a random card or not. But you would be reasonable to suspect that randomness was not the only factor in that case.
Sure, I would agree. Yeah.
Right. Therefore, you would be reasonable to suspect that structural racism is the more likely explanation.
In my hypothetical.
Yeah.
And it's way more reasonable, infinitely more reasonable, actually.
Not in the hypothetical.
Maybe not infinitely, but pretty approaching infinitely. Yeah.
Yes.
Aiko, imagine what would I be if I didn't eat breakfast this morning?
Hungry?
Well, but I never skip breakfast though, Aiko. I've never done it in my entire life, and I never will.
You're not even addressing the crux of the point.
Oh, then you didn't. How you didn't skip it.
No. But right. So the answer to the question of if I didn't eat breakfast, what's the answer to that, Aiko?
That you're a liar. That one of your presumptions is not true, right? Either that you always eat breakfast, or
you're not agreeing.
You lied about always eating breakfast.
You do it correctly. You have to agree with him and give him his.
Laxo doesn't see the problem.
You gotta let him feel.
I'm just answering the question.
You're doing it wrong.
You can create a syllogism with false premises. You can do that. That's a thing that happens.
I'll go back to my original question. Do you think it's fair to describe a system as always producing the same outcome and describe that as random? Because that was hypothetical.
I think you can have a truly random system that has produced the same outcome.
I'm not saying whether it can exist. I'm saying, do you think it's fair?
You cannot predict if you're sitting from the front, like in the temporal space. If you're sitting on the front end, you can't predict that it will hit heads 20 times because it's unpredictable.
What was the hypothetical? You said this system always provides the same outcome. Is that a predictable system?
No, I'm saying it has produced the same outcome 20 times in a row. I'm not saying
the original.
I'm not saying
the original premise is that it always.
Yes, that was.
I'm saying that it did always. I'm not saying that you can if you.
Well, hold on. It wasn't
yourself in the middle of it.
It was GSU's that it will. Original one, and he said always. He said.
Yeah. And Laxo history.
Always in the sense that it always has. In the past 20 times,
scientific physics problems up on the chalkboard
heads every time.
Even Gibbs didn't agree with this. I don't know if he does now, but
Gibbs showed up at the end. He didn't know what was going on.
I can tell you right now.
What are you talking about?
What's going on? But I can tell you this. This is real simple. This is really stupid because I don't think anything at all is random. Whether or not you believe in God, not a God, we know that we all are products of an environment. That environment acts upon us. And therefore, if you are trying to imagine some hypothetical scenario, well, you can't even do that because you're acting off. Like, how are you going to be able to think the same way as like a silicone-based life form? It's just not possible because you're going to act in the same manner as like the environment you were based upon. So there is no randomness, what I'll be arguing. Because, and then even at a further, I mean, now I'm not the scientist here, but based on my cursory understanding of science, everything in the universe follows some sort of rule or that is either we know or is yet to be discovered, and therefore nothing is random at the meta level.
Bro, how high are you right now? What the fuck are you?
Problem. This is just facts.
Some good ganja, bro.
He's right.
Tell me what I said is wrong right there.
It's not my position. I think randomness has to do with the observer, right? If you can't predict it, then it's random to you.
And if that's the ganja that's telling me,
but I do think that Gibbs is saying that what he's saying is you can say that this thing is random, or you can say that no such thing as randomness exists. What you can't do is say both. Yeah.
I would agree.
That's one of the two possible answers to that. And Gibbs gave one possible answer. I'm kind of on the other side of that, but we're both staying within the constraints of what's possible. But to say that something is truly random and also always receives the same result, those are the two things that can't happen.
Are you guys fucking with me?
Even if we're talking about a smaller number, even if we're just talking about 8 coin flips in a row, which is still pretty darn unlikely.
I would never fuck with you, Lactoid.
Yeah, that can still happen, right? But what it means is that the odds of it happening are very, very low, right? So the odds of structural racism not existing and it being a truly random result is also exceedingly low, right? The odds are very much higher that it's structural racism is the cause, or some other element besides structural racism. There can be some other element too.
One of the hypos that I presented a world with white people and a world with black people.
Yeah.
What do you think the likelihood of this? Yeah. What do you think the likelihood of this being the case is?
My hypothetical where I answered God.
No, okay. With God, all things are possible. What? Sure.
Yeah,
I'm saying that. What's the hypothetical that out there is one world with nothing but white people on it and one world with nothing but black people on it? What's the likelihood of that? You think?
I have no idea how to calculate that. There's so many axioms.
It probably exists. It probabably exists in the world.
Bro, what?
Yeah, what? Have you not seen aliens? Every time an alien race comes down, it's one group of people. They all look the same.
And they're
Gibbs can tell you there's more than one kind of alien.
Yeah, and they're Homo sapiens.
Wait. More than one kind of alien, but does
I'm not saying alien.
Is it true that each alien planet is homogeneous?
They start out relatively homogeneous, but
in origin at least, right? In origin. No, really? No, so there are multicultural planets besides Earth?
Yeah. There gotta be, right?
I don't know. I'm just asking.
That's
not what
all I can do is look at nature and I see like 2 times ants of a different color, and you know what they do? They kill each other. So I'm assuming that all species worldwide and universal wide are like that. There's gotta be basically racism throughout.
Lactoid, can I ask you a question? What's your problem with giving into there is structural or systemic racism? What's your issue there?
No, you guys are so
No, I don't. No, I'm literally.
The whole argument was it wasn't about whether or not structural racism exists. I mean, GSU Gambit was arguing on my side, and me and him have had discussions as to the extent of structural racism and where it exists and where it doesn't. Yeah. And I will accept that it exists in certain areas. The reason we were aligned is because we were both aligned against this theory that looking at an outcome is sufficient to determine that there has been structural racism. Because
you realize that when we make determinations, right? We never limit ourselves to only when it's 100% of the time determinations, right? We always know that there's going to be some slight exceptions to the rule, right? We don't wait until not just approaching 0, but we actually hit 0 when we can make a determination. In the field of law, if you did that, you got a business.
What are you talking about?
When you have to prove something in a court of law, you have to prove preponderance of the evidence, right? That's your obligation. And even in if we're talking about if
it's beyond
preponderance of the evidence,
I can draw
out. Preponderance of evidence is irrelevant. You could have all the.
It depends on the court case.
Exists.
We're talking about civil cases.
Yeah, in civil cases, it's preponderance.
I'm moving on to the next one. I haven't finished my list yet, but that's one of them is preponderance of the evidence.
I can address. I mean, I can address that hypothetical.
Yeah.
Right. So you would agree.
Well, it's not a hypothetical. What I'm saying is, even in cases of criminal court where the standard is much higher, you still have the reasonable doubt standard, which means that there's some doubt, right? Like if you wanted to say, what are the odds of a DNA match being wrong? It's like this incredibly low number, right? And so in the OJ case, the prosecution said, the odds of it being wrong are so infinitesimally small that you have to determine that OJ did it beyond a reasonable doubt. Right.
I have the perfect response to this. So in law, you have to prove something called causation.
Right.
It's not enough. It's not enough to just look at. Give me 1 second. It's not enough to just look at damages, right? If you show up to court and all you show is like pictures of your damaged car and say, look at my car is damaged, so he must have done it. You're losing that case. I have seen, I guess I haven't personally seen, but I have heard of cases being thrown out because the attorney neglected to sufficiently prove causation. You have to prove
of course,
that the person did something wrong, that thing that they did wrong caused the damages, and then the damages resulted. And so
but how can you prove...
what me and GSU Gambit were saying is it's not sufficient to just look at the damages. You have to provide a theory as to causation on every inequity, and on every inequity, and that causation needs to be tied to some sort of racism.
But the doubt has to be reasonable, right? So there are some potential causes that are so unlikely that they're not reasonable, right? So if you wanted to say that a fairy came out of the forest and caused the damage right at the same moment that this other car was in the vicinity, no jury would say, okay, can't rule that out. So I guess that person is not liable.
Correct.
Right. So that means you don't have to get all the way to 100% likelihood. You have to get to some level of likelihood where it's not reasonable to assume it.
Agreed. You could never get to 100% likelihood.
Right.
In fact,
exactly.
In fact,
and what that hypothetical was designed to do was to say that if you had any number, no matter how small, you can just say, "Oh, it was probably random then," or it might have been random, and therefore we can't.
That was not the purpose. First of all, you really can't know anything 100%, right? There's this concept of solipsism. We all could be in the matrix.
It becomes solipsism, absolutely. That's what I'm saying.
We could all be in the matrix. What the hypothetical was trying to show is that all it was showing is here's an example of inequity that is entirely caused by randomness. That is entirely caused by luck.
Again, self-contradictory. You can just
roll with me for a second. Just roll. Here is an inequity that is entirely caused by bad luck, I guess. And I'm not saying that definitively proves that in the real world all instances of inequity are caused by bad luck. But what we're saying is it's not sufficient to just simply, and this is what Gambit was saying multiple times, it's not sufficient to just look at inequity. This is one of the things that happens all the time when it comes to the wage gap, for example. Look, women make less than men do. This must be because of some kind of sexism. All right, well, if you just simply roll with this sort of this sort of consequentialist, not even consequentialist, this sort of like starting with an assumption based on the end result, and then assuming that assumption is true, you get these weird realities, right? So you have the president of the United States saying, look, women get paid less per hour than men do. This is, and then the assumption there that's just sort of left hanging is it's because bosses are sexist and they want to pay men more. But then like you look into it, wow, has anybody considered that men work more hours, 7% more hours? Why wasn't that explained? Oh, and then look at like the kind of fields that different genders choose. And look at XYZ, and like you start like actually analyzing the causation of the wage gap, and you start to see all these explanations that shrink the wage gap significantly.
Right, and none of those explanations are randomness. So that's why I think it was not the example I would have gone with.
I'm not saying that the randomness, but here's the point. Even when you control for all the things that we know to control for, you still get like a 1 to 2% gap, or I think it's like 3%, 1 to 3% gap in income between men and women. Now that we've looked at the causation for everything and we can't explain this 3% gap, let me ask you, do you think that it's possible that this gap is caused by randomness? Do you think it's possible it's caused by sexism? Do you think it's possibly caused by some other thing that we just don't know yet, that we haven't fully explored? How are we supposed to know what this small portion of the wage gap
is the most likely out of the three that you just said is that third thing. But that's not where we were in that
that's
argument.
not randomness either, though, right?
That's not
Like,
randomness.
and that's why when I was talking earlier,
you
when
cannot
were saying,
rule out
hold on,
randomness. You cannot rule
this
it
is
out.
why when you were saying I was too stoned to even contribute a little bit ago, that's exactly what I said. I was like,
Are you
there's all
stoned?
these things. I am stoned, but
I'm stoned.
there's all these things.
I'm thinking
And
no
just
matter
because
when
you
you
don't know
ask the
about it
question,
doesn't mean you don't
yeah.
adhere to these rules.
But
It's just
Lactoid,
an unknown rule.
it might have
You
just
cannot-
been random that
you
he
cannot
couldn't
rule
answer
out
the
randomness.
question.
You cannot rule out randomness.
Well,
Maybe
it's
it
not
wasn't that he was
I can
stoned.
rule
Maybe it
out
was
randomness.
just random chance that Gibbs
I
didn't
can't
answer
even
the
follow that
question
idea.
that way last time.
Wait. You're right. I can't rule that out. But given that he just said that he was stoned,
I know. I was just trying to make it.
I'm
And I'm
beginning
still right.
to
Because you're
form a
stoned.
Whoa,
hypothesis.
whoa, whoa! I'm stoned. That means nothing. You can't rule out
Yeah.
people because they're stoned.
In fact, I think we should give them more credence.
Ah.
Credits, whatever. That's the word we're looking for. Whatever the word is, that's what we should be. They're more credible.
I think you should get credits.
My mind is open to more ideas than you are, Lactoid. That's how it works.
It's too
Is
closed
that
up,
what it
too
does?
tight.
Makes you open-minded. Yeah,
I mean, yeah.
I'm pretty close-minded, so I
There are
know.
studies.
Maybe I should do. There are studies.
Studies.
Give me a study. Give me a study that you know.
Right here. I'm living proof.
See, I think pointing out all those other factors that might explain it,
got
other
studies,
than
I got
randomness,
anecdotes.
would have served your argument much better.
Could it?
I
Could
think
it
going
be,
to randomness was the
reason why we
because I agree with you on those alternate explanations.
yeah,
I
the reason-
100%.
yes,
we debate
yes.
this all the time. We talk
The
about
reason
this.
why we're using luck. The reason why we were using luck is because it's very easy to understand in a hypothetical. Like you would agree that it could,
Not
it
in
could.
your
Luck is so
hypothetical.
difficult to
No,
understand.
for
I think
sure.
we proved that luck is difficult to understand.
No,
last
it's
week.
not. It's not difficult to understand. You would agree that there is when you look at two people, one person makes more than the other. You would agree with me that it could be because one person just lucked out and made more money.
Ori, let me ask you: of all the classes that you took, I don't know what your experience was, but I was a psych major. Of all the classes that I took, the hardest one for me was stats. And it was because I had such a hard time grasping randomness, right? Like what you could attribute to randomness and what you could attribute to other things. I just didn't understand the math. And, I took pre-cal, I took number theory. There's a bunch of math classes I took, and it was stats that kicked my butt.
Yeah, stats is exceptionally difficult.
It's because I think maybe I'm just dumb, but I don't understand. I really don't understand statistical probabilities.
I like stats. That was my favorite of the
Here, let me ask you this: do you think it's
I
random?
like to do. It was a lot of fun, but I couldn't understand it. I mean,
think it's-
I understood how to determine whether or not a particular study was valid or not, but I didn't grok it. You know what I mean? Like I couldn't, in my head, get it. I could do the calculations to get at the result, but that's kind of different than understanding, intuitively.
So let me ask real quick. Rousseau, I think, used the term lottery of birth. Do you guys think that you think it's like random or luck that you are born into a rich family?
Okay, so I was going to bring this up earlier because we do a lot of work with the veil of ignorance, John Rawls. And he talks about designing a world in which it is random where you will be placed or born. Like imagine you're outside of the universe. Maybe you're in like in Plato's Republic at the end where you die and you get to be reborn after spending some time in heaven or hell, and you get to come back and but what you cannot choose is where you exist in the world. That's part of John Rawls's thought experiment. He says if you don't know where you will live, you don't know if you're going to be rich or poor, gay or straight, you don't know if you're going to be trans, you don't know what country you're going to be in, you don't know any of that stuff. If it's truly random where you'll be born, what kind of society would you design so that no matter where you live in it, you would have a good chance?
Wait. Something can be truly random. You just said.
Yeah, but no. That's what somebody else said. What I said is things can be
you're saying it's
random
not
to
random.
you. Like if you don't understand the probabilities of something, then it's random to you.
Hey, wait. But you would agree with me that it's random if you'll be born into a rich family, right?
Right. It's right. From the perspective of the person who's being born, which is what the John Rawls thought experiment is, it's totally random where you're going to be born. Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Wait a minute,
totally
hold on.
random. I agree.
But it's not
Yeah.
random.
Hey, I remember before.
No, it's not random from a universal standpoint. If from the omniscient standpoint of God, we know how cell division works. Obviously, it's not random that one cell is going to be born to some other mother, right? But we're talking about from you. You don't know all that stuff before you're born. There's nothing that you have done. You don't choose your parents.
But no,
We can agree on that, right?
Well, hold on.
But
I
hold
agree
on.
with Sam. Go ahead.
No, you go first. You go first. I agree.
I mean, I agree with Sam Kinison on this. Before I walked this shitty earth, I was a being of light. I knew neither happiness nor sadness nor pain nor suffering. And then my parents had to bring my ass down here.
And it wasn't Sam Kinison's fault that his parents fucked that day, right?
Yeah. Hold on. Here's
I
the
agree
thing,
with
though.
Sam Kinison that we didn't choose our parents. We didn't choose to be born. And therefore, randomness is the only thing that matters.
But this only makes sense from a religious perspective, right? This only makes sense if you start with, right, well, there was a soul, right? And then I come down into a random body, right? From the perspective, there is no perspective, like from the
You can think of that
observer,
as a metaphor.
because we don't.
You don't have to believe it. But the fact is, you did not choose to be born.
No,
You agree with that, right?
But yeah, sure. But that does. I'm like addressing. You guys are like just stating, you and Lactoid, right? That this is random, and this is like a weird way of putting together. This seems like a category error as to like what we apply the term random to, right? It's not as if my consciousness is like wholly separate from my body, and that my soul, whatever, right?
There is no consciousness, is the point, and therefore it's random to you because you don't have the ability.
You keep using this term.
How is it random to me? It's not random at all.
You keep using this term random to you, and I feel like that's a real problem. Like, because it's just random, or there is no randomness, right? Because you're going, okay, it's random to you. Like if I go play poker and I'm playing blackjack, right? It's random if I can't do statistics, right? That's your argument that whatever card I'm gonna get. But that's actually not true.
That's a really good metaphor.
And this is actually why this is actually a false metaphor, because there's still a statistical probability of what I'm going to get based off what's been played. Just because I don't know what those statistics are doesn't make it random. It might be random to me in that sense, but that randomness is just stupidity or ignorance. That's not actually randomness. There's a major problem with your little.
Okay, here's another metaphor that we all know about, right? Which is Lady Justice.
Hold on.
Why does she wear blindfold?
Real quick. Like why? How do you explain that?
I'm using your metaphor.
Okay.
So Lady Justice wears a blindfold, right? So that when she's judging a case, there's a bunch of stuff in that case that she's not supposed to pay attention to, right? Because Justice is blind. So that case is random to her. But there might be people involved in that case at other levels, maybe people who, keep track of different things that some are and some are not supposed to be considered in that trial. And the case is not random to them because they know a bunch of stuff. Like, for instance, there are certain things that the OJ jurors did not know when they were at their court. And they said later on, if we'd known this, we would have ruled a different way. But there's a reason why they're supposed to be blind to those things, because it's supposed to be, those things are supposed to have no impact on the case. It's supposed to be random from the perspective of the jurors. Do you see what I'm saying? So making yourself intentionally ignorant, that's why John Rawls calls it the veil of ignorance. Making yourself intentionally ignorant to some of these outcomes allow you to make a more fair choice because you can't bias your choice with your knowledge.
It's not randomness, though. Just because you're making yourself intentionally ignorant to something doesn't mean that the outcome can be created by something random. You're still acting on it's not. There is no random to you. You're still acting on a set of variables, whether you're aware of those variables or not. It can't be random in that manner.
But those variables are not supposed to have an influence over your judgment. That's the point. So that if you want to call it something else, you can call it something else. But from your perspective, you can't say that this was the cause because it's being kept from you as a juror.
It's ignorance.
So
if I'm driving my car down the freeway and suddenly I can't see, it's not variable. It's not random that I suddenly drove into a wall. I drove into a wall because I can't see.
What's random that you went blind?
It is because now you're choosing. Now your choice as to where you're going to steer has now become random. Your ability to choose where to drive. You can't drive if you can't. If all of your choices are random, then Jesus take the wheel, right? If we let Jesus actually take the wheel, we're going to die. Because at every single moment that what that car does is more random than if we have somebody who's in the driver's seat who's making choices that they can choose from.
People were saying I was the one that was too stoned.
Jesus is about to call us home, apparently. Yeah. No.
I just got more high. I'm joining you.
Yeah, I disagree. Like, the more you talk, Eiko, the more I disagree with your standpoint of randomness here. Like
Like I said, you can call it something else. I don't care about the
I
semantics.
think I think we should call it something else because again, I think we're having
Absolutely,
a category
you can
error
call
here,
something-
right?
anything else.
Like
we can call it Gibbs. Okay?
I do want to. Sure,
You
we
have
can.
to have a Gibbsian veil on.
I'm just saying.
Gibbs, don't take the wheel.
Well, I mean, look, when I became suspicious when Lactoid agreed with you, right? I'm like, okay, this must be wrong, right? So
what did I
got a
agree?
good point
What did I agree with?
The whole thing about it's random of where you get born into, right? Like that doesn't make sense, right? Like
so you would agree that like you see behind you, like from your eyes, right? Like you are you. Do you would agree with that?
I would agree that I
You'd have
am.
to think about it.
So do you agree that like it's like the fact that you were born as you and not as like some, I don't know, like ultra rich playboy.
This is a
right?
phenomenological.
This was randomness.
perspective.
Like you could have been born and seeing from behind your eyes, except your eyes are now
What
driving like a
what
Bugatti.
is you, Lactoid? What is you,
I don't.
Lactoid?
I don't.
Yeah,
Lactoid
this is getting
is
real
you made up of all your
philosophical.
experiences. Like, yeah, you're hold on. You
Let
is a personhood made up of all your life experiences, so and all this stuff, right? The only reason you exist is because X, Y, Z happened before, right? You can even argue that the you that you are now is not the same you that was existing 10 minutes ago. Like this is
Yeah,
like,
well,
so
here, let me ask you
There's
this.
a causal and effect.
Classic
There's no
hypothetical.
randomness.
Classic hypothetical. If I can make an exact clone of you with every single memory and every single experience, like the memory of every experience you've ever had.
Totally different person.
Okay. Totally different person. Why?
Because they're cloning me.
I know that they're
the
cloning
minute
you.
they exist in the same universe as me.
Damn, he had the quickest answer.
Yeah, horrible. It doesn't make sense with your prior answer though. So I make an identical clone of you, and then
this
would
is
you?
Riker and his
and then
brother.
and then would you be okay with me killing the original you?
No, because they're two different people.
What makes you you, as opposed to your clone that has
Guess
everything
what?
identical?
Here's what makes my clone my clone. He's my clone. Even if we have everything exactly the same.
I'll be right
Once
back.
you have two separate entities, they become two things. The causation is the making of the second one. I don't understand how you can try to argue this is a randomness. It's dumb. One can't exist without the come on, my son.
Right. So
Nissan.
you are agreeing that there is some kind of difference. Maybe you're not able to like really specify because this is a difficult question. And some people,
you're
no,
trying to
it's not a simple question.
Wrong.
You can't specify the difference between yourself and a clone?
Stop.
I mean, I already had the answer before you finished the
some
question.
people, no, you didn't. There's some people like Synth, for example, where Synth's argument is that all identity is an illusion, right? And that it actually you're not experiencing yourself in the way that you think you are. You're simply like a machine that believes it's experiencing itself. It's like that's Synth's belief. I think that's pretty doom and gloom. It's possible, I guess, but we're rolling with the assumption here
because what we're talking about right now.
Because I'm explaining, right? If somebody were to offer me a clone of me and then kill me, I would not take that deal. This is the classic Star Trek transporter problem, because I wouldn't want to die. And someone might say, "But Lactoid, you would live. This is an exact identical clone of you." Prestige, Star Trek, but plenty of shows and movies that try to deal with this concept. What does it mean to be you? What does it mean to see from behind your eyes? If you make a clone, I'm not seeing from behind those eyes. That's the clone seeing behind the clone's eyes. I am seeing from behind my eyes. So it can't just be your experiences, because that clone has all the same identical experiences, all the same identical memory, all the same identical DNA.
Stocks have the same experiences
down to an atom. Down to an atom, they are identical in every single way, except they hold a different position in time space, right? And so then the question is, if you could be born seeing from behind your eyes in the way that you do now, but to the family of a multi-billionaire, okay, super rich, ridiculously rich, you would agree that like the fact that you were born to your current family as opposed to the family of a multi-billionaire was random.
No. Oh, sorry. I mean,
no. It's not random. Like the minute they exist in space time, it's like at the same different position in space time. It's no longer random. Like the minute they exist, they have a separate identity or whatever. So it's like
when you move, when you hold on, the Earth is spinning at how many miles an hour? Are you constantly shifting identities?
I mean, one can argue yes. Yeah, every second is a new you every meter. Like, I mean,
So then why even care if you die? Why even care about death? It's a different person
hey,
who's
look,
going to die
check
in the
this out.
future.
Check this out. Atheists argue that the Big Bang started with nothing, right? Nothing created the Big Bang, right? I'm paraphrasing. Boom, and it blows up. What happens when you die? Nothing. You know what that sounds like? That sounds like this comedian I saw this. That sounds like you return to your creator. You know, that guy's right. I think that's where we're at. You're always a new person every second. Nothing's random.
Nobody should fear death because the person who's going to die is not going to be you.
I'd like to
exactly.
but we're gonna have to move on to the actual topic at hand in a second here.
I just have one question for Corey, but you go ahead.
Sure, but I just want to attack this. I disagree with Gibbs here on that. Like, I think there's a continuity of consciousness.
Good way to get to the next topic.
It's a continuity of
consciousness. That's the best way to get to the topic.
That's not what I'm arguing. I'm not saying it's like, I'm just saying you could argue. That's not my argument.
Okay, so well, to be clear, I'm not like each moment where like a new person. There's a continuity, right? Like the next second, I'm still going to have the still experiences and still tendencies that I still have now, right? I won't randomly have the tendencies of like a billionaire or a conservative, right? Or any other despicable category. Like I'll still be me. But like, so there's that. But to say it's random, I think whether I will be born or not would be random, right? In terms of like even then, it might even be pseudo-random at best, right? But like in terms of like the specific sperm, meaning that specific egg, and then combining in that specific way, to make my genetics and to birth me, right? Like in that one night of passion. Oh God. That seems random, but not whether I would maybe have been like Grid's kid, right? Grid's had a son. Like that's not random. That I would have ended up there. Like that's like it. It's and like it ties like with like obviously like our ignorance as to like how consciousness is tied with our body. But I think there must be some sort of like link there, because I think form like determines purpose and operation, right? Like would I be the same person like if I was if the sperm and the egg had been damaged, right, by like because my parents had been exposed to some sort of chemicals, right? Like the same sperm, same egg, but they had been damaged in some way, right? And something came out, a viable child came out, but would that still be me? Like like maybe not, right? Like I don't know. But like it's not random as to terms of like where my consciousness ends up. My consciousness could never have ended up coming out of Corey's parents is a union, their night of passion.
You don't want my parents.
Yeah, like so I don't know. But so you want to say something to Corey, then we can.
Yeah. So Corey gave a definition of randomness, right, which was predictability. That's something can be predicted. And which implies that there is a predictor, there is a person who's doing the prediction. So if you're doing this from the point of view of omniscience, right, which now I kind of understand where Gibbs is coming from, because if you believe that you are God, then nothing can be random, right? Because you can predict anything. But there are those of us who are somewhat south of where Gibbs is in the scale of divinity. Who we can't predict certain things, or the degree to which we could predict it is so like minuscule that it might as well be zero, like from our perspective. And that's what we're talking about when we say something can be random to you. It's not that there's nothing in the force that you can look at maybe after the fact and say, oh, this person was born because this happened and that happened, right? But there is this sort of sliding doors effect where the complexity of something gets so great that it becomes virtually impossible, really actually impossible to predict it. That's the kind of randomness that I'm talking about. It's phenomenological. It has to do with whether or not you can predict a thing, which means we're talking about the abilities of the predictor. So if you want to say something is not truly random, what you're saying is somebody out there predicted this or could have predicted this. And there are things that we cannot predict. And that's what I mean by random. Now, maybe that's different from the way Lactoid understands it. But yeah, I absolutely think that it's funny that I say absolutely, because what I'm saying is there are no absolutes. I'm not saying there's no randomness. I'm saying there's no absolutes. In other words, there's not a mind out there that can predict these incredible.
Yeah, but again,
so Ika, you would agree then with the statement that anything's random so far as you don't have that enough information, right? So you're saying there's at some point there's enough information that you can be given to make something not random, no matter what it is, right? Because
everybody knows that
plays within a set of rules, right?
Everybody knows that quote from Arthur C. Clarke, where he says that a sufficient amount of science will be such that it's indistinguishable from magic.
Right.
What makes magic is that it's random, is that you can't predict it, you can't explain it, right? And so if you were to give a ray gun to a caveman, that from the perspective of that caveman, it's totally random. Like Corey, as a scientist, might understand how the ray gun works, but he's not the caveman, and the caveman to the caveman is totally random.
Agree with that.
It's impossible to predict.
No,
yeah, I agree with that.
The more you talk about it, like the more I disagree that we can.
So who predicted that Prime
ignorance.
would exist before you were born?
I don't think you have to. You're just stating that as a stipulation. I don't think anyone had to have been able to predict my birth. I mean, I think it was. Look, I mean, if we're gonna be honest, right? If we're gonna look in the real world, I think it was predicted within the tomes of the divine text, right? That I would come down from.
Yes, if you believe in God, that's true. Yeah. I think you just talked yourself into theism.
But the point is that I don't think that it's
one way or another. It always comes full circle.
As
it is the evolutionists that point to randomness.
I don't think anyone has to predict something for it to have been random or not random. And maybe all this is making.
Well, then you agree with Gibbs that there's no such thing as randomness.
Yeah, that's what I'm about to say. I'm actually might be approaching that there really is no such thing as random. At least
congratulations
nothing that we can
on your divinity.
But no, it's I don't need to. It's not that I need to understand the rest of it. I'm saying that there's just a level of just because a system is so utterly complex that I can't figure it out, right? Once you shrunk it down to the idea of the ray gun, right? And you know, that appearing to be magic. One, I disagree with your definition of magic, but even still with working within that.
Well, it's Arthur C. Clarke's definition of magic, but yeah. Okay,
fair enough. I that the caveman just doesn't understand. It's a complex system that he doesn't understand, but that's clearly not right. And so we just scale that up to the entire universe. Just because I can't, or no a known observer can understand its complexity, doesn't make any it random, right? It's a system that's working on laws, right? That has interactions, some that we understand currently, some that we don't, right? But happening on so many levels that we don't have the ability to calculate it, probably without building another universe, right? To do so, but still, that doesn't mean any of it's
God's
random.
grand plan for my life. Yeah, that would be something that would,
Feels good to be on the winning side, doesn't it, Prime?
As always, right? Once you just given the Gibbs,
I will see you at Mass next week, Prime. I will see you at Mass.
All right. Well, then
Wait, come to the mosque first.
All right.
Oh yeah.
Ramadan's
that's
next
perfect.
week.
You can go to his on Saturday, and you can come to mine on Sunday.
Ramadan's next week, you know, or Friday.
Go get high with Ali at the mosque.
That's why Ali's filling up on chips.
No, you don't get high and go to the mosque. You respect the Lord's house.
I've heard, I've seen. In fact, I was over the last week, I saw a few videos featuring some Muslim women, and they were super hot. So hopefully we can find that in your place, right? Really.
Yeah. Muslims, Latinas, you know, it's a good looking mix.
Yeah. Oh my God.
But they're gonna have veils on, Prime.
Sometimes not.
That's something that we Catholics did too. Like for a long, long time, is you were supposed to cover up when you went to church. That stopped in the '60s. But
listen, there are
part
like,
of-
you know, there are cultural Muslims and secular Muslims. You know, there are people who are just like, you know, they were just born here, man.
Yeah.
They just do the rap, you know, around the quick rap, and they're good to go. I'm looking for them. But okay. See what's under that modest clothing.
With consent.
With consent.
This
yeah,
is why they
with
talk about the
consent.
great home
Yeah.
reformation at the church now, right? You see, people like this go to church just for hedonistic reasons. I approve.
Women do look their best at church. That is true.
I'll take
Got
your word
trapped
for
with
it.
their husbands after their failed flings.
I'm
You know?
gonna
As long as they're mating and copulating, man.
Let's move on.
That's
to,
all we're looking for
the
here.
topic at hand. All right. And it's sort of in this ballpark, very obliquely. But before we do that,
We did
hey,
kind of come around full force. Yeah.
everyone, thank you for being here. This is Reverie Roundtable, which we have Mondays 8 p.m. Eastern. Once again, we had a little of a pregame topic there. I to be and to be fair, glad to it. I didn't bring it up. I'll
fully take full blame of that. Like,
yeah.
yes, absolutely.
Okay. You can blame Corey. I wasn't going to beat you up yet. I found another reason to disagree with you, but I wasn't going to attack you again. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed that conversation, which was actually quite different from the ones we usually have, we don't usually argue on these grounds. Much more philosophical than we oftentimes get. Consider supporting the channel. Sub the channel. Give bits or give subs. If you're on YouTube, consider using Super Chat. And we can respond to your questions. I am on the lookout. Thank you. Was it Raza for following the channel earlier? Thank you so much. And if you haven't followed the channel, consider doing that and making sure notifications are on so you know when we're going live. Love to have you. Okay. So we are going to get started. The topic is last year, police in a small Ohio town made an arrest during a drug bust. They accused a suspect of hiding drugs in their anus. To retrieve the alleged evidence, the police took the suspect to a local Catholic hospital for a body cavity search. However, the hospital staff refused on moral, ethical, and religious grounds. The hospital is now facing charges for defying a court order and have suffered other repercussions for this decision. Do you agree with the actions of the medical staff? What should be the limit of the state's ability to compel behavior? Should people be able to reject court orders because of supposed ethical conflicts? Should there be some sort of punishment when that happens? And if so, what would that look like? So yeah, I came across this article. This hospital, like the staff felt that it's like it's possibly dangerous. Let's say like it was cocaine in a baggie, right? That was up his bum. They were afraid that, well, doing a cavity search, we could possibly pierce the bag, and then it could, immediately go into his bloodstream, especially through the anus, right? Just straight to the bloodstream, and then he could just like die of an overdose. And also that, like, because the patient also received the suspect also refused. Like, one, we don't want to, perform medical action against a person against their will, and we got religious reasons for. I'm not really sure what the religious reasons were, but still, they don't want to do that. And they felt an acceptable compromise was simply waiting for him to pass, right? Like, so like he was guy stuck in the hospital, right? And they can keep track of his stool, right? So they're like, well, we'll just like see like his next a few stools and see if anything comes out. But the police didn't seem to like that. At all, especially, but they did have like I think according to the story, like a warrant, right, like a court order for the cavity search or whatever. But they just refused to do that. So yeah, I wanted to explore like what can the state compel of us, right? Because I'm sure everyone here has a limit as to like, okay, if this is too far, what can be compelled, right? But where is that? I think it's probably going to be very different for us all. And how do you justify, right, going up to that limit and not one step further? So yeah, we'll get started. You can you do opening statements and introduce yourself at the same time. So if you're Lactoid.
Yeah, I'm Lactoid. You can find me at Lactoid TV, where we go over all of the correct way to engage with hypotheticals. So today's topic here, we're going to be talking about drugs. Great topic, and really the limits on state power. And I struggle with this one. I struggle with this one a lot because, on one hand, just like taxes, just like injunctions, for a lot of reasons, the state forcing you to do labor for them is pretty fucked up. In fact, it is a sort of micro form of slavery, right? There's a lot of things that the state mandates people do for critical reasons that are technically micro versions of slavery, right? Jury duty. They force you to go and do work for them against your will, even if you don't want to. A lot of people don't want to. They try to get out of jury duty because it is a form of micro slavery. A less form, I think it's larger. It's also a form of slavery. Would be the draft, right? In fact, I think that's pretty bad, right? You're putting a gun in somebody's hands and forcing them into a combat zone where they very well could die. I think it's one of the worst kinds of labor that you can be forced to do, and that's just a given, right? Because the state has deemed it necessary for the state's survival. So, we have examples of drafting, of jury duty, of and of course all the taxes that go towards all public goods, et cetera. All of that is basically a form of labor expropriation. That's what it is. You're mandating that certain labor be done against the person's will, and that be expropriated in order to fulfill some kind of common purpose. Here, the question is one of, okay, well, what if the state needs to do its job in regards to drugs? Now, obviously, drugs should be legal, but assuming that they are illegal and the state has some kind of interest, hypothetically, let's say, the state has some kind of interest in enforcing laws against drugs, well, they should, of course, be able to search people for drugs. And if they're hiding the drugs in their anus, they're going to have to go into someone's anus to get the drugs, just like if they had any kind of contraband. You can't be like, well, I don't, I may have drugs in there, but I don't give you permission to go up in there, because that's the only way that they're getting the drugs, assuming that, of course, you would just poop it out. In this case, I don't know why they just didn't potentially wait for that. Maybe it was really stuck up in there. So the answer that I want to give is that no, a hospital should not be forced to provide any kind of treatment. They shouldn't be forced to provide abortions. They shouldn't be forced. It's a Catholic hospital. They shouldn't be forced to provide any kind of service. No hospital should be forced to provide any kind of service. But what if it is critical to the functioning of a law enforcement role, and law enforcement is one of the few domains that we accept the state to have? Well, ideally, we would, again, let them say fuck you. But what if every single hospital says fuck you? Then how are the cops going to enforce their job? Like, how's anybody in the government going to be able to enforce their job here without having some kind of like centralized government hospital where they specifically do these kind of searches? That's a tough problem. That's a very tough problem. And I don't know the answer to that. But what I do know is that currently in the United States, there's a lot more than just these Catholic hospitals that would do it. So I think the state should have to exhaust their options with other medical providers before they move on to this kind of mandates for everybody to do what they want. Now, if it really gets to the point where there's nobody that'll do it, we can start having those tough conversations. But in my mind, the way to minimize the amount of force we're making people do, we should first exhaust every other medical provider that it could be willing to do it, and then go from there. So I disagree with the government in this case. I don't think that they sufficiently went to potential alternatives to do the drug search.
Ollie.
Yeah, I go by sociologic. If you want to see me engage with the crazy hypotheticals that Lactoid throws out, I'm here Mondays, always. But on the topic, yeah, no. First of all, I didn't know that cops could make any doctor forcibly sodomize someone for drugs because it's in someone's ass. Fuck that. If they want, if they want to take the potential lawsuit or harm or ethic or moral that comes with that, they can take them to the jail and stick their fingers in their ass and take it out, and they can deal with the consequences of that action if it's that important and that severe that you need to get the drugs out right now. Because if you take this and turn it around and say it was a girl, I don't think anyone would want anyone shoving their finger in a vagine to pull out the drugs. I think we would just, wait till they came out of natural causes. I don't know if they would fall out eventually, but yeah, no, I don't think the cops can have someone forcibly, especially not for like drugs. If this is like a murder case and they shove the weapon up their ass, maybe, like maybe I'd be like, yeah, we got to get this weapon out. They're gonna hold it for dear life. But like, I mean, like, yeah, also. Like you could just X-ray. It will eventually come out. Like you can't hold for that long. But yeah, take the responsibility upon yourself. It's extreme circumstances. Drugs aren't a severe enough reason for me to tell a third party to perform sodomy just so that you can get your little drug baggie. No, we can wait it out, and that's why that's the like religious reason. Like they'd probably throw out Prime is that like we're not performing sodomy. Fuck that. But yeah,
Good point.
yeah, no. If the cops want the drugs that badly, they can themselves.
Okay. I'm curious what a biology class led by Professor Ali would look like.
Sign me up. I got the wrong education.
What was I wrong about anything? What did I say?
It's just no. Don't worry. I just think it would be fun.
You just meant you're entertaining. You didn't mean that you were wrong.
Yeah. Only that long. But next, our friend Gibbs, please. He knows how a woman's vagina works. Ain't that right, Gibbs?
Yeah. Let me tell you. I'll tell you one other thing is that there's about 2 words for what the government can compel me to do if I decided I'm not doing it, and that's fuck all. Like I'm telling you right now, they're gonna be able to make me do shit. There's a reason why Texas is the state that says come and take it. We fully believe in might makes right. Like they might maybe make some stuff an inconvenience for you. They're gonna make me go to court. If I'm sorry, they're not gonna make me finger pop somebody's asshole to find some drugs if I'm a doctor. It just is not gonna happen. Luckily, I'm not a medical doctor. I'm a religious doctor. But the point is, though, regardless, they're just not gonna be able to make me do shit in that regard. And anybody that advocates that they should and they're confused about it is a commie.
Thank you for that, Gibbs. As always, I apologize for anyone who ever has to go after Gibbs. But our friend Grid is here, and we missed him. We didn't have him last week. Or I think the week before too. I think, but still, one or the other. Thank you for being here, Grid.
Yeah, sorry, I was absent a couple of weeks. Last week I was at DebateCon in New Jersey, so
Hell yeah.
unfortunately couldn't be here for that. So this is to me, this is. I don't even know that there's a real debate here to be had, simply because they literally were asking to violate a lot of constitutional premises, and not just the First Amendment, but the 13th Amendment, as Lactoid said. There's a lot of different things there. But we don't even have to go quite that deep. The state cannot compel a medical professional to do anything. They can punish them if they don't, if a court decides such is the case, but they would have a horrible time trying to convince a judge that a doctor saying stop and wait for this to happen naturally, in my medical opinion, is the correct way to go. Like the cops are completely wrong in this case. They're absolutely wrong. I have no idea why they were in such an impatient stance, and they were really abusing their authority. To be honest, I believe they risk and they are being sued by the hospital. Just as something that I didn't hear you mention, maybe you did, and I just skipped over it. They actually did a CT scan on the man that showed no foreign object, and that wasn't enough to assuage the cops. Now, that in and of itself, without the patient's permission, is a violation of that patient's rights. Patients have rights, and they do. So, unfortunately, as much as I generically tend to side with law and order, there was no law and there was no order in this case. They suspected a drug deal of happening. They already had foregone a conclusion of a drug deal happening, and they were simply trying to prove what they wanted to prove. Damned the law. Let's just go with what we want to have happen. As far as as far as the people involved, it's hospitals. The hospital president actually was well within his right to refuse the treatment under the First Amendment. There's nothing the hospital did wrong, but as always, it has to be. You have to remember that sometimes battles aren't worth the war, right? Because you can beat the rap, but can you beat the ride? How much is this going to cost the hospital? How much is this? How much is this? How much are they going to suffer in legal fees? They say they're already being. Their police force was disbanded. They've suffered other censure in the community. So again, they stood their ground. I think they did the right thing. They're probably going to just come out on the right side in court. But they're still taking the ride. They're still going to spend the money. They're still going to spend the time. And the fact that law enforcement can abuse their authority in such a way and cause this kind of damage to a hospital is pretty dramatic to me. And I'm just gonna leave you with that a government that is literally up your butt is way too powerful, and we don't need that.
Okay. Interesting. I wonder. Okay, that's quite interesting. In terms of that CT scan, so I'm just gonna read to the audience so they understand the exact nuance here. The officers took Harris, the suspect, to Mercy Health Lorraine Hospital, the hospital in question, where a CT scan noted something in Harris's bowels, but did not indicate if it was a foreign object. The hospital said. So it could have, like, I'm guessing that just like was a shadow, like in his bowels. But like there could have just been poop, like the usual thing that's there. But so there was no like definitive, like it wasn't like the weapon that like Ali.
Inconclusive.
Yeah, it isn't inclusive. Yeah, like it wasn't like shaped like a knife, like it was a weapon. I was like, oh, okay, well then, that's a spot, right?
Or a baggie of drugs.
Yeah,
a baggie of drugs probably looks like shit, right?
Yeah, baggie of drugs probably looks like poop.
Like a stool,
Yeah. So but so inconclusive. So
would be more reflective though.
Reflective
from the CT scan, wouldn't it show up differently because the CT scan's not like an X-ray?
That's true.
Yeah,
but wait, even if
I would think that a glassine baggie in your rectum would glow like a fucking I'm
not sure if it glows in the CT scan.
Like you're saying, reflect like something would reflect off of like whatever laser or ray was shooting off of it.
There would be a way to image it. Not sure if it's X-ray or something else, but there would be a way to image it because it wouldn't have the exact same density as the guts of a human body.
Yeah. Okay.
You could image it.
I don't know if a CT will do that. Yeah, a colonoscopy will do that. But all right. Well, anyway, our friend Corey, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah. Well, thank you for inviting me. What I do have to say is, I actually feel unsafe right now since we have both Gibbs and iCal. Where if I get measles, I'm blaming either one of you in this call.
That's right.
For sure, it's kind of this. But yeah, as alluded to,
you can blame me too.
You have the measles?
You could blame Lactoid more than you could have. Well, yeah, I'm pretty sure Gibbs is pro-vaccine.
I like vaccines for me. But I want them.
What you want. But yeah, as alluded to, but I think Lactoid and others of like this is a really complex matter. And I don't know exactly where the line is, but I would say so far based off of what I read in the story and like pretty much I think what everyone else is like, the police have like crossed the line, and that's too much intervention. And I sort of side with what Ali outlined in terms of like if they want to get the evidence, then the cops have to do it. This might actually now, let's say, encourage cops, and now we have to force cops to have more training to actually do cavity searches. And I guess what I would say is like, if we have cops doing this, which they should take it in their own hands to do it, they're going to be held liable, as in if the patient dies, like that's on them. Like, and they should suffer the consequences for that. If they damage the patient during the cavity search, then that's on them, and they should be held accountable for that. And then maybe that ups the stakes in terms of whether a cop actually wants to pursue a cavity search, because then it's going to be on them, as opposed to it's easy to just say, well, hey, the doctor does it. If the doctor doesn't want to do it, I see that so far off the top of my head as like the most obvious a compromise that I can see somehow working, maybe. And yeah, I'll leave it there for now.
I'm not sure if I said this before, if anyone else said this afterwards, but to be clear, no drugs were ever found from the suspect, right?
Oh,
yeah. So,
and they did sample his stool. Like, they kept him there for like 3 days.
Yeah, they kept him there for a while. And eventually he was like let go.
And that's a whole other question. How long should they be able to detain you?
Yeah, that's another thing. Yeah. But so just to be clear, they never found it, and the guy's out free right now. So yeah, let's go to our friend Aiko.
So I'm glad we all seem to agree on this. Maybe what I'm about to say will help us like get to something else where we disagree more. I don't know, but this is a Catholic hospital, and recently, like very recently, like in the last few days, there was a papal letter in response to Vance's claim. Vance made this strange claim that that Christians should care about people close to them first, and then with each like degree of separation between them and the other, they should care less and less. So like people who are on the other side of the world from you, for instance, are the people that you need to care the least about. And that's our focus should be on caring about. His claim was just citizens, right? We should care about them. It's part of the America First thing, I suppose, like trying to make it work with the Gospels. But he's Catholic. J.D. Vance is Catholic. So Francis responded specifically with a letter to the U.S. bishops. And the U.S. bishops are not exactly on the left. They're pretty darn conservative. But he sent them a letter, and they've been reacting to this letter, like positively with Francis. And part of it read, God will richly reward all that you do for the protection and defense of those who are considered less valuable, less human, less important, or less human. I exhort all of the faithful of the Catholic Church and all men and women of goodwill not to give in to the narratives that discriminate against and cause unnecessary suffering, or discriminate and cause unnecessary suffering. So I think that I don't know if this this Catholic hospital was in any way like responding to the order that came from the Pope on this, but it certainly sounds consistent with that order, which is if the government steps in and tells you to do something in the name of law and order or whatever it may be, if it violates like the human dignity to do that thing, then it is your responsibility to resist. In this case, we all agree with the choice of the hospital to resist in this particular instance. But there will be more cases like this, many more of them. Some of you, on whether you are on the left or on the right, you might have different reasons to agree or disagree with it. Right? The Catholic Church has had these fights over, for instance, abortion. Somebody comes in and demands an abortion. Can you, as a Catholic doctor, say, I can't do this, go somewhere else? Like, let somebody who's not Catholic perform this procedure because it goes against my religious conscience. But also, like, if you're being told, listen, I had to take my mother to the ER last week, and she's fine, everything's fine. But, and I think Prime knows this because I mentioned it to him. One of the things they asked is, they said, hey, we have a new question on our intake forms that just like came to us like very, very recently from the federal government. I have to ask you if you are in the country legally. And of course, I immediately answered yes, because my mother is a citizen and wasn't anything. But it just occurred to me that, wow, there's going to be hospitals all over the country, some of whom will not add this question to their intake, despite being ordered to by the federal government. And so in a lot of these questions, we're going to have to ask ourselves, who do you trust more, government or the church? And I suppose that's a highly context-dependent question for a lot of people. They're going to give a different answer depending on what the topic is. But I think ultimately, especially over the next 4 years, we're going to see more and more sort of war of words between the government as it tries to pursue new priorities and the church as it tries to continue to live by its own moral standards.
Okay, thank you. Open to the panel.
I think we all agree.
I was about to say, yeah.
Well, no.
Do we all agree?
But no,
Oh, well, I think there's some minor
we all
details.
agree on this topic for sure, what this hospital did.
Yeah,
but do we
yeah.
agree in the larger debate?
I think you have to get to the large debate, yeah, because I don't think these specific actions appear to be like unnecessarily. There's so many other alternatives.
Very
right?
over the top, yeah.
They could have found a different hospital. They could have waited. I don't understand in this case why body cavity search was even necessary. I mean, there was a couple things that they could have done that I guess they seem very insistent on just not doing. Now, if a court orders you to do something, you should probably do it. But like, I don't know, maybe that can be the
so
point of
two things.
I don't know if you read the article, Lactoid, but in the
But what if the court's wrong? Like,
What do you mean? If the court should tell you to do something, you should do it.
Yeah,
They were wrong.
You remember on this panel, I actually showed this clip on stream earlier this week. We were talking about how the Supreme Court wanted to stop Texas from doing shit with the border, and I said that you catch these hands. I stand by that statement.
Yeah, I disagreed with you on that. Remember that?
I can't help but that you
I think Texas should have had to follow the Supreme Court.
Comes down here and they want to tell us what's up on a situation we know they're wrong on. They catch these hands too. Again, to this day,
So you just bow down at any time the government says something?
Yeah, I'm sorry that I'm not willing to be a baby back bitch like Lactoid is.
Wait, anytime the court says something, you just have to bow?
Corey, sorry, Grid was talking previously.
I thought this was a miracle.
Grid.
Yeah, so all that's cool, but the thing is that one of the reasons why the hospital would not perform the search is the guy said, "I don't consent to this. This is not. I'm not okay with this." And there is a law. There is a law in place, and I happen to know this because when before my brother passed, my mom tried to call the sheriff to have the sheriff come out and with an ambulance and force my brother to seek treatment. They literally told him if a human being is awake and can respond and says, "I don't want help," we can't force them to seek help. That works both ways. If the patient says, "No, you're not sticking your fingers up my butt. I don't want you to do that," the hospital has to respect that. That's in their code. That's in their, that is
if they're of sound mind. Yeah.
Also the cops were wrong. So it's like if they did do that.
So by waiting,
well, that's not
there was nothing lost.
That's
here.
not really
there was
what
nothing lost
relevant.
here except the cops get a black eye.
It's absolutely relevant.
Wait, we always talk about post the post rationalization.
It's not relevant to the question.
It's 100% relevant that they were wrong. So they profiled someone. They took them in. They tried to make a doctor forcibly sodomize him for the drugs that were up his ass, and they were wrong.
It makes it feel more like. Makes it feel like
no, it doesn't make it feel more.
You get angry. You get more incensed. You get more incensed about it. But
the facts don't care about the feelings. They were wrong.
Yeah. The question is not were they right or wrong about this guy having drugs. The question is, do they have the right to do this?
Wait, well, if they're wrong, they don't have
no. Clearly, they don't have the right to do this because they're not competent enough to get it right.
Ali, are you saying that the cops only have the right to search for drugs if they find drugs?
Honestly, I think 9 times out of 10, cops. If there's no problem, if the probable cause is, I think he put him in his ass. Yeah, you need
search,
evidence.
The whole point of a search.
You need evidence.
Well, hold on.
Let's be
clear. The cop said that he saw him do it.
Probable cause, I think, is
so the cop can say whatever the fuck he wants.
Let's be clear that
what kind of evidence are you looking for?
Issue 2 warrants
with the drugs
to search his anus.
Right. Yeah, they're looking for the drugs.
Refused.
Let's change the hypothetical slightly. All right. Well, let's make.
Why this isn't a hypothetical? Let's engage with the actual situation. Why do we have to?
Because we agree. Because we agree on the situation.
No, we don't. We don't. I said, and they were wrong, and you're like, well, that doesn't really matter. It completely matters.
The question of whether or not they should be able to do it.
Yes, it speaks to their judgment.
What's the point of it? What is the point of a search?
If a judge issued a warrant,
that I trust your judgment enough to believe that the person I'm searching has drugs.
Would you allow that to go through, Lactoid?
Would you say that they should?
If a judge issued a warrant, and this was like the law, they said, "Hey, you have to let that man fuck you in the ass." Would you do it just because the judge issued the warrant? I mean, that's the argument you're making.
Well,
wait a minute.
They should have.
I believe in the Constitution. I'm an originalist.
This is a argument, but this is like
I'm an originalist.
You're like, hey,
I would do an emergency appeal.
A finger up his ass. You'll find drugs.
So you're not an originalist. What if it was the Supreme Court?
The originalist, an original interpretation of the Constitution and all law would never mandate someone to come fuck me in the ass. Okay.
Well, that's what they're doing here. They're finger
Well,
fucking.
that's literally what's
They're
happening.
just taking it one step.
It's just
further.
finger fucking.
It's
Yeah.
okay.
It's
Hold
fucking
on.
right.
No,
It is finger fucking because they have to massage the
There
prostate
wasn't drugs in
behind the
there.
thing
It
in
literally
there.
would have been the equivalent to
if
just
there
getting a finger
was,
in your ass.
what if there was? Then the finger's still in your ass.
But here's the thing: there wasn't. I
But
don't even
let's
have
say
to-
there was.
for the drugs, literally.
But
What,
what?
hypothetically,
Yeah, you still shouldn't be able to forcibly tell
Okay.
a doctor to force their finger up the push.
All
Now
right,
here's
right.
the thing.
What
you
if
want
I
to know
see
why?
you put the drugs in there?
Do you want no?
Well,
This is why.
actually,
This is why because the
hold on.
judgment of the
Let's go
person
on.
coming to me, if they can be wrong sometimes, and so like this cop can come to me and say, "Hey, I saw him put so much cocaine in his ass that
Because
you
you
have to get
can
it
be
out right
wrong
now."
sometimes makes you never
Yeah,
credible.
because they were in fact wrong,
Yeah.
and because
Cops are
the
humans.
reality
bro.
is
Cops are
that
humans. They're idiots.
the current doctrine legally is it's better to miss 1,000 times than imprison the wrong guy one time.
Big based.
Uh-huh.
So well, hold on.
Crazy.
Look at Daddy Grid one coming in for the
Keep
kill.
in mind, if we're gonna roll with this, we're never gonna be able to convict anybody on rape offenses anymore.
Yeah. Like
That goes out the window.
Why?
Okay, because we cannot guarantee that 1 out of 1,000 isn't going to be wrong. About 2%. About 2% of
Yeah.
people who are convicted, which is much more than 1
Or
in
we
1,000.
just get better at, or we
About
just get better at,
2%.
or we just get better at trying rape cases.
there's like a missing child, right? And like the cop sees him, like the suspect actually like struggling to get this child into their house, right? Like, and then they close the door, and then you can't issue a warrant, right? Because he only saw. I mean,
You
he
could be
says he
wrong.
saw.
The
He
cop
could
was
be
wrong before.
right? It's possibly that could be his child, right? They look exactly
a
like
violation of my house. You're raping my house.
Wait. Yeah. You're raping the house. Issuing a warrant for a house check is completely different than issuing a fucking colonoscopy. Okay.
It could be.
You can't-
even
What if I'm
worse.
hiding a kid?
You can't legally mandate a
You-
colonoscopy.
I don't hide
Well,
my
you
secrets.
can't do it,
the
brother.
child of his asshole.
I don't
Brother, I
hide my
promise.
secrets in my anus. I hide them in my house, right? So
Well,
actually,
you
it
just
might be
script them,
worse.
you script-
I'd
you
actually
script
rather
them.
you
You're
stick
gonna
your
secret
stick in my
them in the
butt
hole
than search my
of
house.
your rectum.
What if I'm hiding a dirty bomb in my butthole? Can you search for it there, Ali?
No.
Now it makes it dirty.
Radioactivity.
If you brought someone with a dirty bomb stuck up their ass to my hospital, I would kick you out of my hospital and take you get the fuck away from me. These people, I'm not putting my finger in
Should anybody on suspicion? Let's say they had an 85% chance of being right, not 1 in 1,000.
They had 85%. How do you get those odds?
But okay, it's a dirty bomb. Somebody saw
You drive it out to the middle of the desert, let them blow up, bro.
Yeah.
No. Hey, whoa. It's not going to blow up on its own. They are going to be able to reach in and pull it out on their own accord and detonate it.
Yeah. Now, when the person, when you do that, are you willing to take the risk of that person going, "Hey, this officer just raped me"? Take the risk and stick your finger in his ass if you're willing to risk that 15% of being wrong.
At some point,
yeah. If you're willing to risk
a dirty bomb, absolutely.
I mean,
100%.
I don't know what a dirty bomb is.
It's a bomb that releases radioactive material without necessarily being nuclear. It's
Why
like
do you
a
How
serious
big of a
weapon.
bomb could that be?
I'm
if someone's
supposed to be
ass?
the expert
Like,
on
is it
this
gonna be a
shit.
dirty bomb for the room, like, bro, like what are you worried about here? Like, like he doesn't have the fucking Hiroshima.
If you have a suspected terrorist in front of you, I mean, sure, like at all costs, protect our great nation. But like, you're willing to take the risk of sodomizing.
That's an icon.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say if we agree with the specific example of this hospital, right? If we go maybe a little step from this, because I think a lot of us agree with the hospital because we agree with the particular point that I'm not sure we all agree on, and maybe this example is what's hiding the disagreement, and that is stop and frisk, right? If it really is if the big problem with this is consent. Obviously, people who are frisked in the stop and frisk program, the cop doesn't even have to have cause to do it. They can just do it at random, and they certainly don't have the consent of the person that they're frisking.
Well, it's random, but every time they're
that's
black.
ridiculous.
So, like, I don't know how random it is if every time you stop someone they're black.
Wait a minute.
Who here is in favor of stop and frisk? Okay, what's your point? So yeah, nobody here is in favor.
Well, I just wanted to see if we had any stop and frisk people in here. I don't know.
Like, what do you?
That's in favor.
Let me, I guess, clarify. Like,
A lot of people on this panel voted for the stop and frisk president.
Are you just when you say stop and like I'm okay if the cops have a lawful reason to stop you, I think that they're fine in frisking you for weapons.
What's a lawful reason?
If they see you doing something
Stop
illegal,
and frisk says you don't have to have a reason.
No,
Wait.
Well, so I understand, and so I wouldn't be in favor
if
of
I-
like
if I
the arbitrary
jaywalk,
stoppage of
they have a
civilians.
reason
and
to frisk
frisking them.
me for
This is
like
why
my
we
gun?
this is why we don't have it. This is what I'm saying is like I can just be putting my hand in my pocket. A couple I saw you put something in your pocket. It's like there's no limitation to like human error in this. So like no stop
You
and frisk in the
jaywalk.
middle of the street.
It's
Like
There's going to be errors. I understand.
Probable cause at least.
yeah, it's
has,
not worth
like,
it. That's
some
not
sort of
the
threshold.
where
that you have.
the errors outweigh
so
the potential gain. There's no
Well,
ROI.
Again, it depends on the result, right? Like, or not the result. It depends on like the risk. So again, the dirty bomb has an extraordinarily high risk, 80, and so I'm willing to tolerate a higher error rate if it means preventing a potential weapon of mass destruction going off in a major city. When it comes to drugs, I would agree that for drugs, I would want a much higher chance of certainty before you go through something as violative as sticking your finger in someone's butthole, right? I agree.
All right, what about like the person, I think the person who is making the report or calling the judgment, also you have to take that into consideration. If like just the Boston PD comes in, this guy has a dirty bomb in his ass, like I don't know if this guy knows that anything about uranium bombs or anything to like make that call, right? But if you're like, I don't know, like military, Navy, whatever, whoever deals with these types of situations and you're making the call, I mean, sure. But like it's the person who's making the judgment. And so like the cops like in this situation brought in someone and it's like you can't the cop's judgment is clearly horrible.
And to be clear, stop and frisk is in use in several cities,
Yes, but
including
stop
New York
and
City.
Do you know what
requires
county,
probable
what
cause.
state or county was this in? I didn't really like read too much.
Okay.
It was in Ohio.
Yeah, I'm not gonna listen. I'm not
He
gonna lie. I
admits
just
it.
go off.
He
I
admits
go off the rip here. We just
Yeah.
off a free. We freestyle.
Okay. Yeah,
You're here to
Ohio.
represent the normies, so that makes total sense.
Okay.
I read the headline in the question.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ohio. And did you read the
I
question?
don't
It
trust
wasn't
Ohio
the question.
cops
It wasn't the
too
topic,
much.
right? Like it was last year, police in a small house town. Like that's where it was.
You just read the questions part at the end. That's it. He read
Yeah,
it.
He didn't read the whole question. He just read.
Yeah. Yeah, like
Part of
it's
the
in the
question.
topic. Okay, all right.
I'm
Anyway.
here
There
every Monday,
were
guys.
words that he
I'm
paid
here every
attention
Monday.
to.
Come listen to my opinions.
Anus is what he grasped. Nothing else.
That's all I had to know.
Okay. So yeah. I when designing this question, at first I wasn't going to pick this topic because I knew immediately we're all going to agree. I don't think anyone would disagree with like that. This was an overreach. Okay. But like the point of disagreement, I think becomes where the state can compel. Right now, like Gibbs says, like not at all. Right. So I wouldn't agree with that. I would agree. I think at some point the state should be able to compel you, or like it's not a state, right? If it can't,
I mean, they
compel,
can physically make
literally-
me do it. Like, I guess if they like hold me down and pry my cheeks apart.
Yeah.
But it's gonna be a
Well,
cold day at hell
okay,
where I'm
so-
like, yeah, that's good.
No. So that's different. But that's different. What you're saying, right? You're saying that like they have to exert enough force on you to actually physically make you do it. I'm saying that the state should have the ability to use compulsion. I'm not sure if I'm using the exact word for this, but like that you can like put consequences on heap consequences on a person or an organization, right? To get them to do something, right? Negative consequences.
Yeah, Gibbs, you're not a prison abolitionist.
No. What I'm saying is, listen, there's absolutely like a level, right? They can like heap the consequences on, right? But there is like a level to where you absolutely can say no, like I'm not going to do X, Y, Z. Then they can imprison you, and at some point they will physically, can do whatever they want, right? Because it's the might makes right. But up until that point, like you have like they're not going to go to arrest this doctor for not going and doing it. So if he's like,
I mean, they might.
fuck you, they're like, we might put you in jail for a few days. If he's willing to suffer the punishment,
Yeah.
there's no
But
way
that's
they can
a
physically
different question.
make it.
That's a different question. Like, yes, a person has the right to refuse, right? Or not even right. Let's say they don't have a quote unquote right to refuse, but they can refuse, right? As an individual actor, they can refuse an order, right?
Yeah, so should fight back.
But that's not. But clearly, that's not what I'm asking in this question, right? It's does the state should the state have the ability to compel a person to do something, and where is the line between what is acceptable to compel and what isn't acceptable to compel?
Should they be able to hold like court or jail in front of you and be like, hey, if you don't do this, you're going to go to jail for 5 years or X, like with the Apple case, right? Wasn't there like a huge court case where like the court wanted Apple to hack the phone and Apple said no? Right?
Yes.
Like that's the thing. Should the court be able
behind
to like hold you to like a certain standard?
They
That's
shouldn't
the
be
one
able to
that
make an
we're going with?
independent hold on. There's like they shouldn't be able to make an independent actor have to come do something in order for them to get it done. If they want to do it, they should have their own people, and that'll be decided. And then you can fight about whether or not. Then you can either go like revolution, or you can go like you fight them in the courts. But there's like absolutely no way they should make a third party have to go do something. They can go fuck themselves, if they
Especially for free.
Let's
Because
go
it's for
to-
free, right? They would do this for free.
Yeah, free. Are you gonna pay me? Like if they
And do they, wait, hold that is a
or is
question.
it
Do
gonna
the
be
doctors
market
get paid
value
for
for
this?
my
Black
time?
Lloyd,
Probably not.
Black Lloyd, do doctors that are non-government issued do they get paid for this procedure?
I don't know.
Can you try to figure that out? I would not be able to figure
sure.
that out yet.
I'll look into that. I was also looking into stop and frisk.
Cool.
So on paper, it requires reasonable suspicion, which is that there's articulable suspicion that a crime may have occurred. It's not just like a hunch, or that you just like randomly could stop somebody who's just walking on the side of the road. There would need to be like, there is a report of a crime in this area. This person's like walking away from the scene of the crime, like shifting, like, in their clothing, whatever, reaching their clothing, like looking back at you. There's like some reports that may link this person to somebody who was there, but nothing like definitive. I'm fine with stopping that person and questioning them. I think that would make sense. If we're talking about just randomly stopping people on the street, and randomly, and just searching them, or arbitrarily stopping somebody and searching them, I'm not okay with that. And there's some accusations that stop and frisk has been used that way, where cops are literally just walking around, see somebody, we might as well just, put a search here. Not okay with that. I am okay with the official stop and frisk, which is, I have some reason to believe that a crime may have occurred. I think you might be involved because of XYZ. So I'm going to stop you, question you, and while I'm questioning you, frisk you briefly for weapons. I think that's reasonable. I think that if a cop also sees somebody like hiding a weapon, that's reasonable for a search at that point. I think that if
I have an issue. I have an issue with the
That's a 2A thing.
No, we can talk about it.
I have a big issue with the idea of officer safety trumping everything else.
Yeah,
I've actually been. So I was, and I was telling this on my show earlier today. I was in a 7-Eleven in Colorado. It's an open carry state. I open carry all the time. The younger officer and I were having it was a very brief but a pleasant conversation about. He asked me, "Hey, what's a cool gun you got? What do you got?" And I said, "HKP-30." He's like, "Cool, that's awesome." I'm like, "What do you got?" And he said, "Oh, I got Department issue Glock 17." He's like, "That's cool too." About that time, an older officer with the biggest chip on his shoulder you could possibly carry comes in and sees that I'm carrying and engaging with his officer, and immediately demands that I disarm. And I told him to go fuck himself.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. I agree with you that
because of officer safety.
Yeah,
this is the thing. This is the bullshit that and they can say that about anything. They can say I have to frisk you for officer safety, and if I just happen to find drugs, or if I just happen to find a pocket knife or whatever it is that they happen to find, well then they didn't need that their probable cause is negated by this officer safety bullshit.
Right. Let me elaborate a little bit more. If you see somebody open carrying, and again, if you have some reason to believe that they may have been involved in a reported crime, right? There needs to be some kind of reasonable suspicion.
Some reason? What is
again a report?
I got pulled over because
I'll give you an example.
And it's the same vicinity as someone else got a black truck. That's not reasonable reason to pull me over.
You're right. A black truck in a city.
I'm gonna light you up in a minute. You're gonna go nuclear.
A black truck in a black truck in a city full of black trucks. I agree. But Gibbs, what if a cop gets a call of like an armed robbery, and then like they get a report that it was a man wearing a Hawaiian shirt who maybe had some jewelry around his neck. He had a big beard, and he robbed the store in a ski mask.
Sounds
and
like
then
a Chad.
then they are driving past, 2 blocks away, and they see somebody who like matches
I was
that
nowhere
description.
near there.
Who sees somebody matches that description, and they see like what appears to be like the top end of a ski mask poking up out of the back pocket. In my opinion, this would be enough to stop the person and say, "Hey, did you happen to be around the store?"
Ski. He's a huge skier.
I think that'd be reasonable, and I will agree with Grid here that in the situation where if there's no like suspicion of a crime and you're just standing there open carrying, which is open carrying, it's not a crime in my state. I shouldn't be a crime anywhere. But and there's no reason to suspect a crime. Okay, that's fine. But what if like you're driving and you look over and you see somebody like quickly shuffling in front of them, and you see them pull out a gun or like move a gun and then quickly hide it in their pants while they're like,
that's happened.
Sneaking quick looks over at you, and then throw their hoodie over.
Hold on, what if they just want to deal with the hassle of the cop coming to harass them because he saw him with a gun?
Well, no. So what I think,
we're like, who are you to just start like guessing these people's mentalities? Like,
what I think this is if somebody is
that's determination as to whether or not there's purpose to it or whether it's random.
Well,
yeah,
hold on.
random,
I think it's fair. I think there's a fair percentage where if you see somebody quickly shuffling to hide a handgun in their belt and like hide it away from the cops when you're pulling up next to them, I think that's sufficient. I think that is sufficient for the cops. I think that's sufficient for the cops to at least ask, "Hey, are you legally allowed to carry that gun?" Because violent felons can't carry guns. Nor do I think violent felons should be allowed to carry guns.
I got to get your opinion on this. Okay, I got to get your opinion. So years ago, this was probably like 98, 99, somewhere along in there. I was out in Reno. I lived in Reno for a while. Actually, I lived at Tahoe. I worked in Reno. And I was driving from Tahoe down to Reno, go through the Washoe Valley, come out. A sheriff's department pulls me over. I have Tennessee plates on my vehicle because I live in Tennessee. And at that time, because it was the early age of integration, whatever reason, Nevada's DMV did not talk to Tennessee's DMV, and when they ran my plates, it came back that they didn't exist. Not that they're stolen, not that they're expired. They don't exist. So I get pulled over. I pull over. No big deal. I got my license. I got my registration. Got my insurance. All that. I also have a gun under the seat of my car. Now, I wasn't actually carrying it on me at the time because I was headed to work and I was in a suit. But I had the gun underneath the seat, which in Nevada law, that's an extension of your home. Very helpful to know the laws of the state that you're in. So it's perfectly within my rights to have that gun there. So the officer comes to my passenger door rather than the driver's door, which put me a little off, but that's okay. As I'm rolling up the window, crank windows, by the way, this is old. And getting my wallet out, I look back over at the officer, and this woman has a gun pointed at me in my face.
That's ridiculous.
Because she saw the gun under my seat, Lactoid.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
I have a real problem with officer safety. All right?
Hold on. You can't.
I'm nowhere near this damn gun. The gun is under my seat.
Yeah. Hold on. We can both agree that's like a ridiculous
It is ridiculous, but
that doesn't mean officer safety is nothing, right? Like you would agree with like some element of officer safety. If you're arresting somebody, you have the right to take their gun off.
I believe that they get paid to take risk, and sometimes
they should be paid.
Should they be allowed to have their gun when they've been arrested in the back of the cop car?
I've actually heard stories of people who actually hidden knives and guns and drugs in the back of cop cars, and they clean them out all the time, and they're like, "What the fuck is this?"
It's a problem. It's a problem when that happens, right?
I got to keep it on me.
Sure. No, look, hey, if you're getting arrested is different than just the initial contact.
No, I agree. And look, if you're making an initial contact, and especially in your situation, in which the gun was under your seat, pulling the gun and aiming at you is completely unacceptable. But I also think
Gibbs will lose his mind if I tell you the whole thing.
But I also think that here's I think the reasonable way that should have been handled, because the license plate not coming back is the first sign of a stolen car, right? You get a fake.
my
Yes, it is.
God.
You get a fake license plate. You
Oh,
put it in the back
God.
of a stolen car.
Yeah, Grid
and-
one stole a car.
And
Yeah,
and the
stole a
cop.
car.
It could be. And so the cop. Hold on. I know that you didn't. I'm just saying this is the first like
Oh, my
indication of a stolen
Lord.
car. And so I think the cop is perfectly justified in like pulling over the car.
Pulling me. I didn't have a problem getting pulled over.
Great. Yeah, walking over and saying, "Hey, weird thing here. Your plate's not coming back. Like, can I just check the VIN to make sure
This
the
is how
car
you
isn't
lose
stolen?"
QA as a concept
Perfectly.
right here. What
I
you
think that's
say?
perfectly reasonable. Hold on, real quick, Grid. You would agree with me that a cop pulling you over and just asking to like look at the VIN, perfectly
Well, I'm
reasonable,
going to
right?
give you. I'll give you another interaction. Similar deal, except well, actually, I think it was in that same state. Similar deal. Get pulled over. Officer says, "Sir, you have a gun under your seat." I said, "Yes, sir, I do." He says, "Don't reach for it, and I won't reach for mine. If you go anywhere near that,
Reasonable.
we're gonna have a problem." That is how that should have been handled.
I agree.
I was in Utah at I just left Miller Motorsports Park. I was coming back. I passed a DUI checkpoint. I get pulled over. I literally the officer said, comes over, truck full of dudes, out of state plates on a weekend. He obviously thinks we're all drunk. He thinks we're out partying. And he says, "Hey, got your license?" I'm like, "Yeah, here's my license. My registration and insurance are in my glove compartment with my gun. I'm sure you would rather reach for those than me." And he did. He opened the door. He removed my. He said, "Hey, I'm going to take your gun with me. Just
Must
because."
be fucking nice, bro.
Huh?
Bro, I would have
Must
lost
be
my
nice
mind
to just be like, yeah, look at the cop, like, yeah, I bet you want to reach for it before I do.
Oh,
Ha 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 ha.
Oh, wait, hold on. Do you agree with the VIN question that the cop should be able to pull you over and ask to read your VIN for your car? Like, I think that's reasonable, right?
No, fuck no.
No.
I mean, if the
listen,
registration doesn't
With
match
a
the
fake
tag,
license or like
Listen,
it
license
could be a fake
plate
license
pulling you
Just
over and
because
asking,
hold on,
sure, but
hold on.
wait, Lactoid,
Error,
how long can he
error
hold you?
on their
How long
part.
can he hold you to
Error-
check this? How deep
like-
can he check?
Like,
Well,
no, they don't
technically, you
they-
need to have a plate in order to drive on public roadways. So the cop could like get your VIN.
Yeah, that's about it, right? Like, it's like, hey, this car isn't reported stolen. I have the paperwork. I will see you later, officer.
Yeah. I
That's
want
it.
to. Yeah, and
Bye.
then I'm gonna ask for the
Hold on.
paperwork.
So now y'all want us
Damn,
not
bro,
only
you
to
want us to
answer.
lie.
This is ridiculous. Now you want not only us to answer to the government, you want us to answer for the government who might be having a system
their
error.
lackeys.
And so now we have to be held responsible to sit here for a computing error. This is fucking totalitarianism. That's what
Oh,
Lackeys
yeah.
advocating.
This is
like,
America.
bullshit.
Having the
You're
cop look at
taking
your
my
VIN.
America away.
Yeah, is that
Please,
right?
you getting
I'm
no
I'm
rights.
traveling. I'm not
Idea.
driving.
You guys
Exactly.
promised me making great
Lord
America
officer,
great
Are you a
again.
Moor? Okay.
I'm so sorry, officer.
You're
that
taking my America away
is
from me.
broken. I'm so sorry it's broken. How? Let me just
Remember the
acquiesce
Moorish
to your
nation?
inconvenience of you not having this information that I just so freely offered up. Like that's fucking
My
bullshit.
America away from me.
I
These are
can't
my
even believe that
freedoms.
people
The right,
actually
and
tell you
blue.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think
Yeah,
it's.
I mean, really,
I think that
Star
if
Spangled
a
Banner?
cop runs your license plate and it comes back either stolen or comes back nothing, and the cop
No,
is
there's
perfectly,
nothing. Then it's
I think
Nothing. Wait.
I think
I
I
would
think
agree
the
with
cop
you,
is
Lactoid.
perfectly
Because
fine
it's
pulling.
stolen,
And
that's
Grid
one
agrees.
thing.
And Grid agrees. We pull the person over,
Lactoid,
ask them,
in
and then like
today's
investigate
world,
a little
I agree
bit.
with you. In 1998, when we barely when the DMVs were still operating on paper, and you couldn't do shit online, I disagree with you because just because your state can't get my tag is meaningless to me because they don't.
Yeah, fuck 'em.
You can't rely on the
Damn.
computer.
I
my
still think
Get 'em, Grid.
I still think they should have been
Oh,
able
the
to pull
computer
you over
system's
and
down that
question.
day. Let's pull everybody over and let's search everybody's
Because
car.
here,
Martial
what-
law. That's what we're gonna do.
What if
Let's
they
just
put-
have martial law.
That's
Hey,
what
roadblock.
Lactoid
Hey,
said.
you're walking on this road after dark.
Lactoid.
Hey, let's have curfews.
That's what I
Hey,
said, yeah,
Lactoid
yeah.
says he
That's
wants
exactly what Lactoid said.
checkpoints
That's
at
what I
every
heard.
intersection, right?
computer
I
problems, martial
want this
law.
authoritarian concept that you have to have like a little plastic card in order to even operate a vehicle. Crazy.
Hey,
This is,
guess what?
I'm
You
basically a
drove
fascist.
you drove through the toll road and didn't
Talking
go
about
off.
wanting to know my
Arrest that man.
identification. It's called a
Arrest
government
that.
name. Why is it called a government name?
Well, you're
Actually,
right.
it's
It's
on
Lactoid
farm
the
roads,
person,
you
not
don't
Lactoid
need
the
a license.
corporation.
Okay.
Okay.
It's not even God given anymore. It's your government name.
So, all right, but multiple things. All right, one Lactoid, and this was something that confused
I'm
me.
trying to be reasonable.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I understand, Fred, and I really want to explore this limit because I think we're already stumbling upon the conflicts here. But just before we do that, right? And I don't know if you understand this part of the law, but cavity searches in general. I was surprised that they even needed a medical staff to do
Advice?
that, because I thought they could, in jail, stick their finger.
The most common well, they do I think there's like some medical staff in jails that can do it, but you generally need medical staff to do it. The body cavity searches are generally rare. The most common reason this happens is for blood draws for DUIs. So in order to get a blood draw, you have to get a warrant, and then they will send you to a hospital, and a nurse will come in, stick you with a needle, draw your blood, then measure your blood alcohol content with that, or scan for other drugs, right? That requires a warrant, but they can do it, and they will have the hospital stick a needle in your arm. And by the way, that terrifies the fuck out of me, because I hate needles.
Well, hold on, wait. They can only
that scares me more than a body cavity.
They can only issue a blood draw if you got caught doing something. So it's like if it's a DUI, if it's something like that, then they can compel.
If they suspect you of a DUI, if you come back below 0.08, then you're fine.
Well, I mean, no. They can't suspect you of a DUI and take you to get a blood draw. They have to go through a procedure first. They'd have to do the breathalyzer.
You have to refuse. They
don't have to do a breathalyzer.
Or you'd have to refuse.
They can do a sobriety test and get a blood draw. They can do blood draw.
Wait, on spot. So wait, in what world is it?
They've taken you to a hospital to do the blood draw. I watch plenty of cop videos. I've absolutely seen a drunk person fail the fuck out of a sobriety test and then get taken to the hospital where they do a blood draw, and they're like, your blood alcohol content is point fucking 2,
and you can sue for that, right?
No, you can't sue for that if it's a court order.
You'd impound my car.
It's a warrant.
You would impound my car, and then you would, you forcibly drew my blood. I feel like that's a weird.
Yeah, they will search you. It's considered a search. A blood draw is considered a search. If there's a valid warrant.
Immunity, huh? You're not a fan of police immunity?
Yeah, they can even force you.
No, I mean, I've never been a fan. I don't really.
In terms of your phone, something pro tip. Is that they can force you to provide your fingerprint, to get into your phone if you have a fingerprint lock, but they can't force you to if there's a code, right, or a pattern, they can't force that out of you. So
what about Face ID?
I guess Face ID would probably count, right? You just put it in front of your face. I mean,
close my eyes.
Force you to open your eyes.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're out of fucking luck.
I wish you would.
I mean, the reality is, if we end the drug war, most of the concern that comes around with these police searches is going to go away, because most of the motivation that these police have in order to search people is to look for drugs, right? If you don't have cops searching for drugs in the same way and policing the community in the same way, most of the situations that we would see searches would be for situations that are much more understandable. This guy we heard 4 gunshots go off. This guy's running from the scene while hastily tucking something, and so we had to search him. Okay, that's way more fucking reasonable than pulling this guy over and having him sit in a hospital for an extended period of time, fighting over whether or not we can search his butthole for drugs, right? The first scenario is way more reasonable for public safety and the shit that cops should actually be doing as opposed to the second situation.
Probably,
Corey, hold on, let's go let Corey in.
Just a quick question to Lactoid, and I think the article sort of alludes to the case where they wanted to draw this person's blood, and the nurse refused it because they I think didn't have a warrant at the time. But I'm just curious, do you know how it would play out in terms of if they have a warrant to draw this person's blood to test for the blood alcohol? But 2 warrants. I'm talking about the case where they didn't have the warrant. I'm talking about the blood draw.
I've seen a situation where a cop asked the nurse to do a blood draw without a warrant, and he was too lazy to actually ask for one. And the nurse said, "No, I'm not going to do that without a warrant." And then the cop arrested the nurse, and then the cop got in trouble for that one, as he should have.
Fired, and
I agree.
She did nothing wrong. Yeah.
I'm just curious, if they have a warrant, okay, but no medical professional chooses to cooperate, is that the dead end that you were alluding to?
Yeah, that's a really tough situation. Because I would want a medical professional doing something like that, and let's say we have some actually valid reason to be searching someone's blood or butthole or whatever the fuck, not the weird scenario here where we could just wait a few days, right? Let's say it's a situation where this person just killed somebody in a motor vehicle accident, and we need to determine what their actual blood alcohol content is. and they are refusing to do a breathalyzer, or for some reason we can't do a breathalyzer. Like we need to get the blood. In that situation, yeah, at some point somebody has to get the blood, right? We got to figure out if this person was drunk when they hit the 3-year-old on the side of the road.
So just because I did a kind of a deep dive on this earlier today, in the case of actual crimes to other people, like if you hit someone DUI, if they suspect that you are in some way impaired operating machinery and someone else gets hurt, they do compel a warrant, and that warrant, they generically no longer take you to a hospital. They have techs at the jail that will do it, or they'll take you to an EMT, because EMTs and which work for the fire department, and the nurse, the techs at the jail can legally do those service, draw the blood and do all the testing, and that preserves the chain of evidence. But they're not bound by the same Hippocratic oath that doctors and some nurses are in hospitals, and so they don't run into that barrier like they do at this hospital. The problem they ran into at the hospital is the doctor said, no, there's no reason to do this. In our medical opinion, he'll just either poop it out, or in a couple of days, we'll go in and get it. There's no reason for
you
this.
You could have the same objection for blood alcohol level.
Yeah, there's no
You
reason.
You could say, like, well, if I stick this person with a needle to draw blood, there's always the risk of infection, which there is with any kind of.
In that, there's always off cases, right? Like people who have what is that? I'm drawing a blank. It's where you
hemophiliac, or like
yes, thank you.
Anemia.
Yeah, and you could have
Doctors
someone
missing veins is the most common shit. That is a major fuck up, and that makes up a lot of medical malpractice cases.
Right.
So what
Sorry.
That's good. What about that other case that I brought up where the hospital is being asked to determine somebody's citizenship or whatever, and the hospital doesn't want to ask that question because they are afraid that it'll have a chilling effect on the community, and then people won't go to the ER anymore because they're afraid, and then people are harmed because of it. And so that that hospital, that Catholic-run hospital, especially given the papal letter that came out recently, says that we're not going to do anything to harm members of the community in that way. They make that decision for themselves, not to ask that intake question. Federal government's going to come after them in some way, right? Like Trump wants compliance with these things. What do we do about that?
I mean, if it's a private hospital, I'm actually, I gotta go. I'm gonna just say one thing on this. I got something that just came up. If it's a private hospital, then and they don't take money from the government, they can definitely tell them to go fuck off. Otherwise, if they're taking money from the government, they should probably follow it. But otherwise, I'm gonna rate it out to you, Prod. Thank you so much for having me. Sorry I have to leave early. Appreciate you having me.
Have a good one, friend.
Yeah.
So 3 hours late last time and leaving early this time.
Well, it's been a wild last 2 weeks. I apologize. Thank you so much.
Have a good one.
We don't have Gibbs' consent to force them to stay.
Yeah. So my thing is like, you have professionals that are meant to do these jobs, right? So this was kind of I had this argument before about like if you see someone stealing, no, you didn't, because it's not your responsibility to the store, right? As a worker, if you're just a cashier, you're not a security guard. So you taking and assuming a risk upon yourself is not like worth it to you. There's no ROI to you. It's not like you're going to get any benefit. So like in this same instance, it's like you want a hospital. I don't care if they're getting government money or not. The job that like a doctor or a nurse or the hospital staff is working is not ICE. They didn't sign up to be police. They didn't sign up to do immigration. They signed up to be doctors. That's what they're studied in. That's what they know. So like, yeah, to put like that extra responsibility on their head without the pay of that comes with that responsibility is absolutely ridiculous. One, and then two, like, yeah, you shouldn't be compelled to do someone else's job. We have entire agencies meant to find illegal immigrants, so on and so forth. Let them do their jobs. They can do their jobs.
That's also the case with my job, right? Like if I find out that one of my students' parents are not here legally, they want to say that I should report to them.
No.
to the government, and
Absolutely not.
I'm refusing to do it. It's a little bit easier for me now because I'm not working for public school anymore, but I was for a long time. And there were plenty of kids. Like I had kids that had straight A's, but their parents, they were dreamers, right? Their parents brought them here illegally when they were children, no fault of their own. And I couldn't get them FAFSA because they couldn't apply for FAFSA if they weren't citizens. But we have something called TAFSA, which is the Texas version of FAFSA, and it does not require that you be a citizen, which is interesting. And so I would use that to get them scholarships all the time.
Nice.
All the time.
Like my thing is
Now the
like,
government's going to try to stop people like me from doing that.
my thing is with the whole, like, if you see something, someone stealing, no, you didn't, so on and so forth. I understand that there's a communal aspect, right? You don't want your community to like be thieved, but there's like the second aspect of like when it comes to like this and comes to like illegal. There's, let's call it a 50-50 split. There's half of the country that says, oh, illegal immigrants need to be deported tomorrow, and then there's the other half that are like, no, we should just like work them into the system somehow in some way and get it faster. You can't just force the other, like, this half of people to just, one, turn on their entire ethics, but two, once again, implement and take on a whole nother responsibility and another job without any ROI. Like, there's no benefit to them. It's all just cost, and it's cost to their community. They believe that their community is
in
safe.
fairness,
They're-
the hospital asks a shit ton of questions that I think are irrelevant, and I still answer them.
I answered
whether or
too.
not you think they're relevant isn't what we're asking. We're saying,
But
like,
my answer didn't matter because
yeah.
he said you have three options. You can say yes, you can say no, or you can say I choose not to say.
Yeah, whether or not
And if you
answer
say
doesn't
I
matter.
choose not to say, and the government gets that the information on that, then they're going to investigate you just for refusing to answer.
I'll give a real simple like example, like just imagine like a nurse asking a patient that's coming in, like, hey, are you an illegal, are you here illegally? And he runs out because he's like worried about ICE, pushes her over, now she has like an ankle, like she hurts her ankle. This is a very like simple thing that could happen, and it, like, hold up, wait. So
There's some
like
crimes though, right, Ali?
He had that
Huh?
reach.
There's some crimes that I
There's
generally,
some crimes. Like being here illegally. Is that the crime that you're?
No, I'm talking about, like, we will agree there's some crimes that we would expect medical professionals to report to the police, right? I can think of
honestly,
multiple that I think you would say yes to.
I'm in favor of mandatory reporting for those types of crimes.
Yeah, so like
Gibbs is not, I don't think.
Well, I think everybody here would have to be, right. The classic example, child abuse, right? If you find symptoms of child abuse,
freeze for anybody else.
Okay, I thought I cut out.
Yeah, I towards
I'm not going to disagree with him on that. It's just I don't. There are people who.
Yeah, yes.
That's great. Somebody had to clip that.
Okay. Well, well, I'm sure Lactoid will come back. He's having some sort of issue, on his end.
He was deported from the Discord.
Yeah.
Because I think you alluded to earlier of like because I think you were bringing up the question of like, should the state be able to compel? And I think you were leaning towards like there's some situations. I was curious, like, is there an example of a situation that you can think of, maybe not, that like the state then now has the right to compel? I understand for maybe not this crime, but it seems like you were alluding to you have your line.
Well, yeah. I think we've already covered some of that ground where you could compel that, so if someone's just walking out the street, you can compel them to stop, because you have reasonable suspicion that they've committed a crime. You can compel them to. Hold on, let me bring Lactoid back in.
Welcome back.
Sorry about that, guys. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, no worries,
It was
friend.
God.
It's your quantum computer.
My computer's definitely not quantum.
It was purely random.
That was
you
random.
Left yeah.
But yeah,
see what just happened with me and Ika was a coincidence.
No such thing as coincidence.
So, yeah, I think you should be able to compel someone, who you find suspicious, to stop and maybe interact with the police, right? Like, that alone, that makes sense. I think you should be able to compel people to, do things like pay taxes, to compel them to, follow rules and regulations. I think that there's like direct compulsion and then there's like indirect compulsion, right? Like there's like lots of laws that like you follow just because like they exist, right? And you can argue that like them existing at all, the fact that they even have a law, right? that's automatically comes with a level of force, a level of coercion, that these things exist. And I think that's fine, right? It's fine that we have those laws, even if like you never interact with them, and even if there's like not a credible threat that they'll be enforced if you broke them, right? Like that's that level of coercion, maybe, or compulsion is fine. And then there's more a direct path where like an agent of the state is interacting with you, and then they can tell you, all right, like give you a lawful order. I think lawful orders exist, right? And a lawful order in itself would come with a level of compulsion, or coercion, whichever one is best for this. So, yeah, I think that's fine. But you know, where's the limit?
Well, so
would it be more accurate to say, Prime? Would it be more accurate to say that truly the law can't compel you to do anything, but it can punish you for not doing what they want?
That's
Yeah.
the same thing.
Yeah. So
I
this
think
is
that's
what I
what
was
Prime's getting at, though.
Compulsion's very. I mean, compulsion in and of itself kind of ties back into that 13th Amendment thing.
unless you make someone a puppet.
Well, yeah. I think compulsion is like punishment for doing something or not doing something is what compulsion means. When people say like, oh, like the First Amendment, but you don't have the right to say what you want, but you don't have the right to be punished if you say the wrong thing. Well, no, that's exactly what freedom of speech means. You do have you cannot be punished for saying the thing.
Freedom of consequence.
Yeah.
There's
You have
limits-
you have freedom
speech.
from yes. There are some limits with the First Amendment, but outside of these limits, you are free of consequence, of legal consequence for saying.
Yeah, so you can't say that
Legal
would be like
consequence.
saying,
Wait. That's like the issue is like when you're saying that phrase, you mean legal consequence. When everyone else says that phrase, they mean consequence of like reality.
Yeah, I mean, people can not like you for saying the things that you say, but
there are also consequences to saying things that people don't like.
You're right, but when we're talking about the First Amendment, we're talking about like as it relates to government, right? Congress shall establish no law.
even
Kind
with
of.
legal,
That's not how people use it. But go ahead, like how.
even with legal consequences, like that distinction is kind of meaningless because, you could just say you don't have to pick cotton for me, right? But it's illegal for you not to pick cotton for me, right? I'm gonna put, you're gonna get a bunch of lashes and then
you're gonna get whipped if you don't, right? I'm not saying you have to,
but you don't have to do it. You can choose to take the whippings instead. Yeah.
We were having this conversation at the end of the panel last week. It's like, yeah, you should have the freedom to say whatever you want and do whatever you want, like so long as like you're not physically harming anyone. But it's like the reality of the situation is if you want to speak words, you're gonna have to deal with the consequences that come with them because like you're dealing with people in like a reality. Not everyone deals with things in a legal basis, and so like using the legal basis is like, yeah, you're right technically, but like try that outside in the real world, see how right you are.
Did you guys hear the child abuse example that I gave regarding?
Yeah, you cut off right there for mandatory reporting.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, so obviously I would agree on that, but it's just like I don't think that I searches and child abuse are two different things. But yeah, so that's like the only issue with the whole like freedom of speech, no freedom of consequence. It's like we don't mean legally when people are saying that.
So
like,
some people mean it legally.
Yes, some, but the majority of people don't.
Grid wants to jump in, so I'm gonna let him do that, and then we can go back to Lactoid so he can finish the point that he was making previously.
Yeah, just really quickly. So that actually kind of goes both ways because if an officer gives you what he considers to be a lawful order or compels you to do something and he's wrong, he loses his qualified immunity and can be sued. And so if I say no, I'm not going to do it, he is not, and because I know that he's not correct. I can beat the rap, but I may not beat the ride. You understand what I'm saying? Is that if I feel like I'm right in denying an officer of the law something, if I feel like that there's no legal grounds for him to do that, and I say no, I'm not going to do it, as these doctors did, it's going to cost me money. It may cost me a night in jail. It may cost me tens of thousands of dollars in lawyer's fees. So I won't beat the ride. But I can beat the rap. I can make that officer sorry that he tried to compel me to do something.
You can win ultimately. And I feel like
I
what you're
mean,
getting,
it
even when
could
at
be
the
a
end.
Pyrrhic victory,
So
though.
when
is
we
what he's
talk
saying.
about compulsion and all of these things, it's great to say, well, you are compelled to because he can lock you up. Sure. But we're a nation of laws. In a totalitarian society, sure, you can lock me up, throw away the key, and then you never hear from me again. But unfortunately, in our society, I get my day in court, and you better be right.
Yeah.
Lactoid?
I don't know if that always holds true in everything.
Lactoid?
Yeah.
Huh.
Sometimes they're not right. I mean,
Right.
oh, I think someone was
Yeah,
talking about O.J. Simpson earlier. That's a great example, I think, of where the jury got
I mean,
horribly,
I think there's
horribly wrong.
I think there's a problem with like perception, right? Because like you've asked this question before. It's like, how many people do you think cops actually kill like a year? It's like people think 1,000.
Very
It's really
small
like
percentage.
12. And
Yeah,
so
it's
it's
a really
like
small
the perception is that like I would say I would assume for like the average person that the perception is that most cops don't have good judgment and that like they're kind of working high stress jobs, low pay, and it's like they fuck up a lot. It's not that they fuck up sometimes; it's they fuck up more often than not. Or at least people feel like they are because they like the job description is protect and serve, and it just feels like harassment of civilian at like every turn of the every turn of the way.
I don't
Now I want to throw something at Lactoid.
I don't think I have stats in front of me as to. I don't think these stats even exist because of how many like police interactions there are every single day.
It doesn't have to be violent interactions. Like I think
I'm not talking about violent. I'm talking about just general police interactions. So like if a cop walks up and talks to you and asks you questions that they're wrong about, that's not going to be recorded. So I don't know like what percentage of the time cops are wrong. But what I can tell you is that in my experience, when it comes to the police, they're not wrong more often than not.
So
and juries actually tend to, in my experience, and from the experience of all the different attorneys I've talked to, cops make some of the most credible witnesses.
That's not even what I mean. That's not even really what I mean. So I think like for the average person just living in like the suburbs or the city, whatever it may be, they feel like the cops are more of a harassment than they are a like service to the community. So like let's talk about municipals, right? Municipal tickets, right? Minuscule speeding tickets are like rolling a stop sign and so on and so forth.
Sure.
Like I rolled a stop sign at 3 a.m, or I didn't roll. I turned right on a red at like 3 a.m. once when there are no cars in the street. A cop pulls me over. I'm not drunk. Everything's fine, but he still writes me a ticket. He's like, well, because the law's the law. It's like, I don't feel like the cops are protecting and serving. I feel like they're just harassing people for money. And so like the average person kind of has a bad taste in their mouth, which is police in general. They're like, hey, these people are kind of just like, it's like people relate them to gangs or the mafia, right? They're like, they're just kind of running around the streets and collecting money. So we already have a perception of these people that like, they're not doing their job. They're kind of just lackeys and it's like bad, right? So it's like, that's kind of the issue when it comes to us wanting to like trust people's judgment, or saying like we should trust the cops' judgment or police's judgment, because it's like we don't believe that their judgment is to be trusted.
No,
so, like,
I don't. I think that you're right. There's some people like that. I think that most of the time, the people who say a cab and say fuck the police, etc., or even people aren't that extreme. People are just like, I think it's bullshit that these highway, like these pirates, take my money on the highway. Again, even those people when they're on a jury, like they're like, yeah, they don't usually seem to challenge the veracity of when a cop says something. And the reality is because the problem with that is not that the cop is wrong factually for pulling you over. Oftentimes these people are speeding and they know it. The problem is we just think it's bullshit that, wow, 7 miles over and you're pulling me over, go fuck yourself. That's what it is. They don't like the cops are doing the job that they're doing, as opposed to the fact that they're committing some kind of overt fraud. Now, I will agree that there are circumstances that cops do have a reputation. This was especially true before body cams became more popular, and in some places where they're not popular. This is a continuing allegation, which is part of the reason why I think body cams should be on all cops.
I love that show, Audit the Auditor.
Drug planting. Yeah, drug planting, right? You planted that, right? And there's some high profile events where cops would plant drugs on people. That does a lot to undermine community trust for sure. But again, by and large, cops are generally trusted for the truth value of what they're saying, because the cops are most of the time a somewhat disinterested party, right? If you get off, their pay doesn't go down, right?
And I think that's dependent on the community that you ask, right? Obviously, if you're like doing like America as a whole, right? But then if you start getting into like certain communities and different communities, right? Like wealthier communities, yeah, sure, they're not really going to have a problem with the cops. Cops seem to do our bidding. We pay them. Our taxes go to this, like built-in security system for us, right? But like lower income communities or people that like, don't see their taxes working for them necessarily. They're probably like more untrustworthy.
Yeah.
And I would say that there's
Sure.
more.
Let me put a bow on it.
I can
Last
jump in
sentence.
here for just 1 second.
One last sentence. I agree with you. There's problems, but if you go to court on a traffic ticket and it's only the cop said you were going this fast and you were saying you weren't going that fast, 9 times out of 10, you're going to be paying the ticket.
No, what I'm saying is like it's reasonable that in certain communities that like the hospital workers don't necessarily trust the cop's judgment. Whereas in other communities, maybe they have more reason to trust the cop's judgment. And so it's like when we're talking about like, should the courts be able to compel workers to do like a certain task on the behalf of the police? It's like, well, I mean, that's kind of where the issues come in. Is like, I think a majority of communities, especially when it comes to like hospitals, like I feel like lawyers are typically like adversary to cops, right? The lawyers and cops don't necessarily get along, as far as I can tell.
No, I mean, no, we're
at least defense lawyers.
I don't think, even defense lawyers, like lawyers and cops are kind of with part of the overall system, and cops recognize that.
Okay, I don't assume hospital staff isn't necessarily like buddy.
Sorry,
I
just want to move ahead. Sorry, go ahead, Grid.
So would it surprise you that there are jurisdictions in the United States that will not hire you as a police officer if you have a high IQ?
I've heard that. I don't think that's true.
I actually have the ruling in front of me. So
post it in the group chat.
Connecticut specifically, a man actually sued the police department because he scored too high on his exam, which would have been a equivalent IQ of 125, and they do not interview candidates who score higher than 27 on their test. He scored a 33 on their battery
27
test.
IQ.
Not 27 IQ, but 27 on the test, which probably equates to like a 9,500, something like that. If 33 is a 127, just extrapolating a little bit there. Yeah. And the courts ruled that is okay for the departments to do because they judge everybody by the same standard. Every person hired is judged by that standard.
And they justified it that this is too high of a score, or like was it?
No, they justified it as they judge everybody by the standard. Their standard is if you score higher than 27 on their test, which is probably the equivalent of 100, 110 IQ maybe. If you get around 125, which is what this guy got, they don't even interview you.
Yeah,
I can never be a cop. God damn it!
I read out the Smarties.
I looked it up. Apparently, you're right. Now, keep in mind, the news story you're referring to was from 2000. I don't know if they're still doing.
It's been a while.
I've heard of something.
I had another lawyer send me that today.
No, wait. I'm looking at some stuff from more recent. This is 2021. So the cited reason is that if they're too high IQ, they might get bored of the police work.
Yeah, they might not stick around.
After all that training, which is
that's
hilarious.
Come on.
Just like if you're overqualified for a job.
That's the biggest bullshit I've ever heard in my life.
What if would it be fraud if I intentionally fuck up my test to get hired as a cop?
Down?
Yeah, I dumb myself down for the test. Technically, that would be fraud, right?
Isn't a prerequisite for like the FBI or CIA or whatever is like to be a cop first?
I don't know.
No, actually, the FBI usually
actually
accountants.
I know the CIA is full of Mormons because you can't have done drugs and shit if you want to be part of the CIA, and that those people just don't touch any drugs.
And nepotism.
Okay, all right. Well, I got a place for me.
You're a Mormon?
Well, no, I don't do drugs.
Oh.
Yeah. But in any case, Mormon. Wow. Yeah, I mean,
it's more likely you're getting Mormon than the CIA, I guess.
Yeah, actually, really. Oh my God. But so getting back to the topic at hand, it seems like we've been all over the place, which is fine. I think we've been touching on some interesting things here. But like what can the state compel you to do, right? And there's probably at least as I try to put this together now, probably like 3 interlocking categories, right? That are in tension with one another. That like examine each situation. We got to wonder if there's enough of one or the other to warrant like compulsion, right? So one would be a threat to the state. Another one of the like a threat to public safety, and maybe the last one, maybe like a threat to the individual. Like if there's an individual person um uh who like who could be the suspect in and of themselves, right? Like that person. Maybe those three things. Like at some point, like the threat to uh public to the state, right? It could be so high, right? Like, oh, a coup is about to happen. That yes, they can compel you to do maybe some wild shit. That might make sense, right? And in public safety, there could be like a nuke, right? That's gonna go off. Like, and if that's gonna happen, well, it'd be okay if like the officer, like, you know, like they're trying to get into a warehouse and the warehouse worker is like, do you have a warrant? He's like, fuck your warrant. Like, you know, like compel him very forcefully to like to open up the warehouse.
And that is an exception, by the way. Like
Yeah.
if you see someone like dragging a kid into a house and
Mm.
they've been kidnapped, you don't have to wait for a warrant. You can just storm in there.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Like and there might be other criteria that I'm just not considering, right? But if you think about the balance between these, right? These concerns, I think that would make sense, like to come up with some sort of formula to say, not like, you know, exact formula, but to look at these things and judge. Are there threats to these pillars, right? Like, uh, and if so, then like it makes sense to escalate like the amount of compulsion or force that the cops and the state in general can exert on the citizenry or whoever's within their borders. Yeah. Well, what do you guys think with that?
Well, yeah, I'm curious. I don't necessarily disagree. Like, there is some sort of threshold. I'm just curious how you would potentially deal with like the hypothetical that I gave to Lacto in terms of like if you're trying to get someone's blood alcohol level and like no medical professional is willing to comply. Like, are you willing to compel a medical professional to like force them?
Okay, sure.
I lean
So
towards no, personally.
let's plug that in, right? So, threat to the suspect, right? The person that like that has the attention of the state, public safety, and then the state itself, right? Like there is very little threat to public safety if you don't immediately get well, actually there is some threat to
If you
public
ran
safety, I
over a
guess, if you don't-
child.
if you ran over a child. Well, no, but then there's no future threat, right?
If this guy gets back out, there's a future
Yeah,
threat.
exactly. Yeah. So
Because now he knows he just has to like, you know, not comply with the sobriety test and he can just get blackout
We could just ban
by
drinking.
the elementary school every time.
If we ban drinking, that solves the problem.
Oh,
All
sure.
right, great.
Okay. Yeah, so
Muslim
there's
response.
very little threat to public
Korea,
safety.
baby.
And there but there's no threat to the state. There is, all right, I'm gonna readjust it. Okay, I'm gonna readjust it. Little threat to the state, almost no possible threat to the individual, assuming a medical professional draws blood, because you can fuck up a person if you like do that badly, actually. There's a reason why we have, you know, trained people who are trained to do that. And there could be a moderate threat. Could be a moderate threat to public safety. There now, but maybe, okay, but the compulsion isn't actually on. Now that I'm thinking about it, the compulsion isn't on the individual, like the person who possibly ran over these kids, right? Like what's in question is the nurse, right, or whoever,
Yeah, the medical
is going to draw the blood, and it seems like low, right? Like there's not yeah, fucking a third party into the formula, it feels like it doesn't rise to a level where I would have to force this individual, especially if there are other alternatives. Like if this is the only person who can do this particular job, and there is a reasonable threat that this person will go out back on the road, right? Like we'll have to like, oh, you know, take the handcuffs off of him, right? Hand back his keys. He's like really gonna go right back on the road. Okay, that'd be different.
To the sea of children.
Yeah, sea of children's outside, right? There's gonna be like, there's like
School's out, baby.
Yeah.
90 miles an hour.
There's,
Just having a good time, just boys being boys.
You know those like Sesame Street like parades, like you go to Sesame Street, like the place, right? The theme park, right? And like that's just happens to be like the street that he was driving down, and like there's a parade of kids on the side of the road, and yes, okay, that
should
might
be
be
very
an issue
illegal.
there, right?
Yes.
And he's in like he's in one of those ridiculous SUVs, huge SUVs where you can't see the kids in front of you any which way, right? So yeah, the high threat there.
This is literally what Daryl Brooks did, but
You're
with
back.
grandmothers, right?
Yeah. Oh, you mean the one who went to the parade? Yeah.
Yeah. He ran over like a bunch of people that were part of the dancing
fuck
grannies,
ton.
like they were elderly people, and he just killed a bunch of them. Yeah,
A
fucked up.
fuck ton of people he killed. It was crazy. Yeah.
They were low risk though, grannies.
Yeah. But anyway, so yeah,
they were low risk to society, I would expect.
but anyway, so
Daryl Brooks not so much.
the plugging it all in, yeah, I think that like to compel this individual person being that person of the medical staff, that doesn't seem like it meets my threshold. If it's like, well, we have to draw this person's blood because it's suspected that he is some sort of like foreign terrorist and they're introducing like an incredibly dangerous pathogen to the United States, right? And like they're using his body as the medium to do so, then yeah, maybe we're gonna use.
What if it was
like, we
Paul
need you
Blart
to
who
do this.
suspected him? Paul Blart suspects him of
mall
this.
He wasn't a real cop. He was a mall cop.
Yeah, but I mean, their security, they call the cops, right?
Paul Blart can call somebody
Yeah.
who can then come and do the search.
And then the cops listen to Paul Blart's suspicion, and then they arrest the guy, and then they take him to the hospital, and they're like, "Hey, listen, this guy's suspected to be a foreign terrorist with a deadly thing," and Prime's just over here like, "Yeah, fucking
yeah. If Paul Blart has no evidence, then they shouldn't do the search. If Paul Blart happens to have like pretty compelling evidence to suggest that this guy's carrying a bioweapon, then yeah, I want the cops to search this guy."
How much evidence would you need to convince? Like, what would convince you?
I look. First of all, some level. Let's start with that. Okay, Paul Blart tells Paul Blart says, "Hey, look, here's like a picture or camera evidence. This is like a glowing piece of uranium. Look at it."
Here's this Uzbekistanian article
This
with
is a
this
highly
picture right
qualified
here.
mall cop who's
It's glowing.
Uzbek-
If somebody in public is shoving anything up their ass, I think that's sufficient to call the cops and have them come investigate. Seriously, why are you in public shoving something up your ass?
Oh,
ever?
wait. There's a girl who is on Instagram or TikTok. I can't, whatever it is.
And we know what
She
kind of
has
girl that
a
is.
she has a dildo, and she goes in public and she like throws it on like the wall or whatever it may be, and she like performs.
I've seen those on Twitter, not on OnlyFans.
That's illegal.
Explain.
Right? Like that's
Whoa,
illegal, right?
whoa. It's not going in her butt.
No, but it's going in her mouth and she's
In her
performing like a
mouth.
sexual act, right?
It probably should be illegal. Actually.
Explain what this is.
It's a giant dildo. She throws it on the ground in public and then just starts deep throating it.
Yeah, or like the wall, or like in the library, like wherever.
Like she sticks it to something, right?
Yeah,
Like it has a suction cup at the end,
and it's an actual dildo.
And then she's like,
right
I've
there. I've
never seen this before. It sounds exciting. So, hun, like actually, I've never heard of this. But now I'm actually a little bit curious as to where you guys stand on this, right?
Kids in the street.
Okay. There's no kids, right?
Also
so like
kids online.
If there's no kids, then it shldn't be illegal. If there's kids, then you should get a ticket for that. Come on.
A ticket would be. I wouldn't be mad at that.
Okay. What do you? Hold on. Let's ask. Great, a real conservative. What he thinks about this, right? So apparently I'm warning, right? I'm not sure if you're aware of this, that there's an individual out there who's taking one of those, suction cup dildos and sticking out in public, right? Like going in public, like slamming it somewhere, and then like
he's in like New York,
filleting the dildo, right? Yeah. Now if she does this and there are no children around, do you think she should suffer consequences for that?
Are we talking about in public, like in a mall? Or are we talking?
She's in
about...
New York, like at CVS.
No, well, hold on, but before then, let's escalate it, right? Let's say she does in a bar, right?
In a bar,
she has link the video to.
I've seen drunk people do a
Prime.
lot of
A
stupid shit.
bar would be fine if she did it in a bar where there's no kids. I got no problem with that.
Can
I've
you
seen
link the
people do a
video?
lot of really stupid shit in bars. If we're talking about like at a restaurant, you know, that I think the problem is that at least in the state of Tennessee, you get into the public indecency range, and you could there could be an issue there.
You think that's indecent, like publicly? Do you think so?
I'm sorry?
Do you think that like qualifies for public indecency? Like you personally?
If you're parading a fake dildo, yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Okay, I'm just asking.
I think the test here is like if she did that shit in an elementary school or a Chuck E. Cheese, would we be okay with it? Obviously not. And so if that's the case, that's usually a good barometer of like, well, maybe she shouldn't be doing this in front of kids.
There's a lot of things. There's a lot of things I think you shouldn't like do at a Chuck. There's a lot of like Fashion Nova and Shein outfits. I think you shouldn't wear at Chuck E. Cheese.
Hold on, but hold on.
You shouldn't wear Shein ever.
Yeah, it's pretty shitty actually. But hold on.
First of all,
two things.
You have
First,
to find the good shops. You haven't found the right shops.
Two things. First, Sean on YouTube, thank you for gifting one membership to someone. I don't know who it was a gift. It doesn't tell you who you gifted towards. Okay, well you
Really? Huh.
oh no, yeah, no, it actually does. I guess to Drew, to a person named Drew. Well, shout out to Drew. And then Lawson Harrison, always a homie, gifted $10, American dollars. The ideal outcome when the moral right is the legal wrong is for a cop to do the right and be heard in court. Or I guess do the right thing and be heard in court after the fact. Okay. I doubt a jury would slam a cop for an unlawful entry to stop a nuke. Yeah, exactly. I agree with you, Lawson, that at some point, right, there's a risk to the like individuals, like risk to the individual, risk to the public, risk to the state. That's just so compelling, so overriding. That yeah. But the thing is, right, just to be clear, like this was. Do you remember that old show 24? Right, like.
Yes.
Conservatives like love that show. To be fair, at the start, everyone loved that show. At the very least. But it became like a big thing in conservative circles because like they treated all those situations as if like there was a bomb going off. Right? They literally had like points where the bomb was about to go off. You know, you had to like get the information out of the bad guys, and so like you had to like kick their asses. And this is a big criticism of the show because. It especially in a post 9/11 America, like people were under the impression that like this was a thing that would happen all the time, right? Or that just like beating someone up, right, would actually give you like correct information, right? And
was
so
Batman justified when he beat up Joker?
Batman justified when he beat up Joker.
In the Dark Knight.
Why is he beating up Joker?
Remember? Have you seen The Dark Knight?
Depends on which one. So you're talking about the movies. I'm talking about the. I'm talking
about the movie, The Dark Knight. The movie, The Dark Knight.
Yeah, one time he beats up Joker in the comics. That one time.
Great.
Like in the interrogation room.
Well, not everybody's here, but I got to jump off. Prime, thanks for having me. It's been fun. Good conversation tonight. Really appreciated it.
Yeah.
I hope Scott feels better. I did harass him to come on, but there was no budging him. So
yeah, it's unfortunate. But yeah, Scott is also like a person with health issues, so it makes it a little bit difficult sometimes for him. But shout out to our friend Scott. Shout out to Grid. Thanks for coming through.
Yeah,
Take care,
you guys
Grid.
have a great rest of your night. I really appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. So in any case, I don't actually remember what the Joker. I think Bob's about to go.
So yeah, it was The Dark Knight. The Joker had kidnapped Harvey Dent and
Rachel.
and and so he's in the interrogation room, and it's that scene like where is she, right? And then he's like slamming his head into the glass. And then he sticks the chair in the door to prevent the cop from coming in and like stopping him. Yeah. And he eventually gets the information out of Joker, right? But of course, it's too late. Spoiler for one of them. But this movie was long enough ago. You should have seen it by now. But it's quite literally a bomb. Like two bombs are going to go off, like unless he gets this information. So he essentially has to torture the Joker in order to try to save lives?
I think so. In the case that there's an actual ticking bomb, then yes, right? My problem, again, the reason why I brought up 24 is that, like, it gave the false impression that, like, this is just a normal part of police work. And if you see police or, like, law enforcement officials doing that, all right, well, it must be necessary and it's justified to do so. Yeah, like, in that situation where you have a literal cartoon villain about to like blow up the city, right?
People,
yeah, right. Like, okay, all right, fine, sure. Like, those things are few and far between. Is the thing I want to impress. But, like, yes, in that individual case, that seems about right. But what else was I going to say before? Oh, we were talking about dildos. Like, it seems to me that, like, I care about, like, the well-being of children, and I care about, like, not doing weird shit in front of kids, right? Like people should have a level of judgment. We have children around, and so you know, we should act accordingly. But I'm also, like, at the same time, right? Like, I have an aversion to the you know, will anyone think of the children argument, right? Because I think that's used often to police adults, right? Well, with the thought that there's a hypothetical child around the corner, right, who might be damaged if they see, like, a fucking nipple, right? Like, okay, things like that bother me. So, like, where does this fall on? I mean, this is pretty extreme to be, like, bullying a dildo.
That's the thing. I agree. There's like I think that if you're scratching your balls in public or, like, rearranging your bra, clearly this isn't nearly, like, bad. Like,
yeah,
should you be touching that in front of kids? No, you shouldn't. But this is not, like, you have no, like, intent of, like, raw sexual passion there in front of a bunch of kids.
Yeah.
But if you're deep throating a dildo, I mean, that's pretty extreme, right?
It's pretty fucking extreme, yeah.
Pretty extreme. Like, you're full on embracing the full sexual, and, like, she could go even further, I guess, and if she penetrated her butthole right in the middle of public, then I guess that would, in my mind, make it sort of comparable to the situation I'm talking about, which is if you see anybody in public shoving something up their butt, I think the cops are pretty justified in going and asking some questions, right? Like, why are you sticking something up your butt in public? Like, what's the purpose? What could ever be the lawful purpose of that?
The side note, completely extraneous to this. I remember going to an aquarium. It was like a field trip. It was like it was like some sort of field trip. And I saw, like, as we were coming into to the aquarium proper, right after getting past, like, the ticket sales gate, there was, like, a person who was, like, mentally not all there, like clearly someone who is mentally degraded, right? And I don't know where his handler was, because this guy must have had a caretaker to get this far. But he was in some sort of, like, a diaper type thing. I don't know, like, adult diaper, and he took his hand in his butt, and then he pulled out some treasure, and he licked it. So it was really rough, man. We're all watching that.
Prank? It sounds like a prank.
No, this was
not. No, this sounds like somebody who needs to be helped.
Yeah. Like, I don't know, like, where his caretaker was. He must have had a caretaker. It was very clear this person couldn't take care of himself, and he was, like, you know, licking his poopy hands. So that was. That's really rough, man.
Jesus Christ!
Like,
that's a public health hazard.
Yeah, a lot of. Oh my God! Like,
again, I'm not saying punish him criminally, but, like, again, reason for the police to at least intervene and say, "Hey, man, we gotta get you out of public because you can't be here licking your shit."
Also, like, seriously, motherfucker, don't touch me. Like, I'm joking.
Or anything else.
And look, you gotta give the cops a little bit of credit.
Excited, man.
You gotta give them a little bit of credit. They have to deal with this guy.
They have to deal with shit.
They have to figure out how to get this guy handcuffed without getting shit all over them.
Or accepting that they're going to get shit all over them.
I had a cop pull me over once, run a little like a drug test and then like breathalyze me, and I didn't even drink that night. And I was like, I kept telling him, I was like I didn't drink. It was so cold. It was the middle of February. It was like it's just so shitty. I don't think he had any reason to think I was, drunk. He was wrong about where he pulled me over, but I can't argue with a cop unless he just takes you to jail. I'm not trying to get my car impounded. That's like $400.
I had this, like I've been breathalyzed too when I've had zero to drink, and so I blew a zero, right?
Yeah.
And I also didn't have my driver's license on me, so basically I was like, shit, okay, I have to be nice, otherwise I can get a ticket for this. So I was like being super cooperative, which you should generally be cooperative anyway. But for me, especially back in those more edgier days, I probably wouldn't have been if I had my license on me.
This is pre-lawyer days.
Yeah, pre-lawyer days, but I didn't have my license, so I had to be nice.
Yeah.
And I got breathalyzed. Because, by the way, and you know what it was? This is what it was. I was driving.
Lawyer I know
normally.
like hates cops.
No, we just understand the role that they play, and just be
to harass
cognizant
the
of
rest
that.
of us. Yeah,
They're doing a job. They're the tool of the state. It's neither good nor bad. It's just dependent on like what the law is.
And when they try to use that tool on them, on them, they know the lingo to get around the tools.
Look, I can't. If I did something criminal and a cop's pulling over, I'm not gonna be able to talk my way out of that, right? Because like if a cop feels like they're being tricked, they're gonna get angry. That's their response. So it's best to just be super polite. The reason the cop pulled me over and breathalyzed me was because I guess my driving wasn't good enough for this fucking dude who was driving about like tailgating me, and so he was driving, following me the whole way to my friend's house. I picked up my friend and I'm driving back, and I'm literally about to call the cops on this guy because he's been following me, but from like every turn. And when someone's following you, I mean, this much, like I was like, I was. No, I was telling him it could have been, but again, in this world, in that neighborhood, I was concerned that like I was a mark at this point. This guy was going to hurt me. And then he pulled off, and I'm like, oh great, he's gone. And then the cop lit me up and pulled me over, and again, blew a zero. Nothing ever came out of it, but still.
Just an
I wasn't mad. I wasn't mad at the cop though, because the guy had obviously called in and said, "Hey, I think this guy's drunk," even though I wasn't drunk. I wasn't even driving bad. I guess this guy's just like a purist. And
a random dude called in.
A random dude followed me. A random dude followed me for like 10 blocks.
It was a cop that was following you. Okay, so
you should be able to. I want to be able to fight this guy.
It was a random guy who was following me for like 10 or 11 blocks. I remember pulling up to my friend's house. I parked waiting for my friend to get out of the house because I was picking up my friend to go to the bar.
Yeah.
I was going to go drink, but I hadn't drank anything yet. And, well, I wasn't going to get drunk, but like 1 or 2 beers. Okay. And this guy had parked like across the street and was like, with the lights off, just sitting there. And then as soon as my friend got in the car and we left, like then he turned his lights back on and started following me again. And I was like, this guy's going to fucking kill me.
Yeah, I would be scared too. Fuck that.
I would, yeah. No, I know. We were driving and I was like,
the cops.
I was telling my friends.
Second follow, yeah.
I was telling my friend, like, hey, get ready to call the cops. If I make a right here and he follows me with the right, call the cops. Yeah. And I made a right and then he kept going. And and then like a cop pulled in and breathalyzed me.
Okay, fair enough. That's fucking terrifying.
I've also been stopped multiple times on foot too. I got stopped. I was walking home. Cop, they had these giant lights on the side of their car, right in the eyes, right, and everything. I had long hair, and the cop was like, "Lift your hair up." And I was like, "Okay." On one side, lift your other side up. Other side, turn your head around. Then I turned my head, and then he drove off.
I'm not turning around. Fuck that. I'm not turning around.
Are you sure they were cops and not just like blind?
No, this was like.
Wait. He didn't say to do the hokey pokey after that.
He was. My guess is he was looking for neck tattoos. Another cop stopped me. I was walking and carrying a knife, and there was a stolen car in the area, and the cop saw me walking past and came to talk to me about if I saw anything, and noticed the knife, and immediately got like super like defensive and like upset, and he was like, "What's that? Like what? What do you have that?" I was like, "I'm just walking alone. I don't know." So he took my knife. He took my knife away from me. He gave it back, but he took it off me.
Cops that have generally been cool, college campus cops, they're generally all right. I feel like they're a bit more understanding. I remember a 4th of July, me and a couple buddies at this house. There was a you're not allowed to do fireworks in the city because it's the backyards were just parking lots basically. And we were drunk as shit. And we did a bunch of fireworks, but we had the mortars that flew off. So we lined up a bunch of them, and we tried to light them all at once, but they all fell over. So they started, driving, flaring into cars.
I've had that problem, yeah.
And then the cops pulled up, and they kind of just made us clean up the area because nothing happened realistically, and no one reported. They just kind of happened upon it. But college cops, I give them a pass. They're usually all right.
They also campus cops rarely have quotas as well.
Yeah.
So they tend to be way more chill than your regular cop. TAs though, fucking narcs. I have to do their job, whatever. But holy shit, dude.
I don't know.
I never got in trouble. I just remember,
those little flashing yellow lights that are on top of roadblocks or whatever.
Mhm.
They're yellow or orange. Or
the
whatever.
Mirrors.
Yeah, no, they're actual lights, with light bulbs inside of them, and they flash and everything. We went to every one we could find within the town where I lived when I was a kid, and stole them. We got a ratchet and we stole them. We had 30 of them in the car, just all randomly blinking, it was that briefcase, right, from that movie.
Off a police car? Sorry, is that the one you're talking
No,
about?
off of cones in the street,
Street cones.
He stole construction
not the
equipment.
cones, but the blocks,
the blinking lights. Yeah,
yeah.
Stole, yeah.
Okay.
We stole 30 of them. I don't know how much trouble we would have been in, but we were in this sort of abandoned cul-de-sac where we had parked to look at all of them because they looked wondrous. And there was a cop car coming straight towards us, and there was no way to turn off, to the left or to the right or anything. The only way to go out was to go all the way to the end and then do a U-turn and get back out again. So there's no way he wasn't going to drive right to us. And he got maybe within 500 feet of our car, and then did a U-turn, had to back up all the way to get back to the regular road to go somewhere. Apparently got a call.
Yeah.
I guarantee you he saw us. He was like, what are those kids doing? But then he got a call.
God,
man, we were we were terrified.
Yeah.
And this is why my friend Aiko believes in God, right? Clearly.
I converted to Catholicism right then and there.
He saw the lights, literally.
Yeah.
I did. I saw
Were you a minor when this happened?
I was, yeah.
Yeah,
but still, I would have gotten in trouble with my parents.
Yeah,
it
but legally,
it's a big deal to me. Obviously,
Yeah.
it wouldn't have destroyed my life or anything. But
as much as anything is a big deal, I got caught. We didn't egg a house. We threw ketchup packets at a house, and then a large ketchup filled bag at the window where the family was dining. Yeah, and the cop found us, and they just made us clean it in the middle of fucking February January with paper towels and water. It was,
okay, when I was 16.
Yeah.
On election night, big presidential election night, this was 1984, Ronald Reagan re-election. We went to all of the houses in the area, literally it had to have been 30 or 40 houses we did this to. And we stole their election signs.
Yes.
We stole, and then we put the opposite one there. So if it was a Reagan sign, we put a Mondale. And if it was a Mondale sign, we put a... Yep. And one time we got caught, and the man of the house came running out with a shotgun, and he was a Reagan guy.
People get really mad when you do that.
People get Reagan guy. What do you know?
The liberals just laughed at us, but the conservatives came out with their guns.
Yeah.
That was the.
I would be lactoid. Lactoid heavily armed in his house, right?
Don't you dare put a Kabbalah flag in front of my home.
Kids on his lawn, right?
I never I did some hijinks. Never anything to damage property. I was
we weren't damaging property, no.
Well, right, but the ketchup could have, and egging does too.
Sure.
We were doing toilet paper, and then also classic ding dong ditch. I did get chased by a guy one time. That was.
We put a tire on some guy's porch once. He chased us. It was,
Wait, just that's the whole.
We were very drunk. It was college. It was
just a tire, just
we found a tire on the street and we picked it up and we were rolling it around. Then we got tired of it, so we put it on some dude's porch. And then he came out. He was like, "Get this tire off our porch." And we said no, and we ran away. And we didn't get very far.
That's edgy. That's fucking edgy.
I don't have any exciting stories like that.
Corey, you weren't part of the gang of hooligans that was putting tires.
Corey should have grown up with me. I would have gotten him into trouble.
I still lead a very boring life. I don't have anything remotely close to that.
I do think that even though it's wrong or whatever, I do think flipping the signs is pretty hilarious. I just think it'd be funny. Did you do it overnight? Because that would have been great if it was 1 or 2 in the morning. and then everybody walks out like in the morning.
Yes, that was the plan. Was for everyone to come out to see the wrong signs.
Wait, you think it's wrong to swap the signs? Like is there an ethic
very,
or moral?
Very
to
minor. It? Yeah, very minor. It's trespassing.
Okay, what is what is it? What's like your moral?
It's trespassing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, look, it's not that big of a deal.
That's what we call a venial sin in the church.
It's like, I always want to know the rationale.
Nothing worth the death penalty.
Yeah.
Still.
Yeah.
I don't know. Hold on. I operate on Judge Dredd rules in any infraction.
I would go to prison and Judge Dredd. Yeah, sure.
No, you wouldn't.
However, he would not have executed me. He doesn't always kill people. Sometimes he sends you to jail for like 30 years, but still.
I do think a shotgun was like very over the top and entirely necessary.
Yeah, I don't know, Mr. Like, I support the castle doctrine. I'm not.
Whoa! If Ika was breaking into this guy's house, then the shotgun would make a lot more sense. Okay, but if he was in a yard sign,
I'm just saying.
I mean, it was his property.
It was technically trespassing.
People of
You're right. You're right. But there is the castle doctrine specifically. There's a difference between your dwelling and your.
We just heard today that in some states your car is an extension of your home, so you can.
Oh my God!
Can be like anywhere in the state. I mean, however
however
long you're willing to drive.
So and there's different states that have different. So like for example, in my state, your car, the castle doctrine applies to your car, but only if you're in it. If you're in your car, and then, by the way, same thing with the house too. If you're in your house, you got castle doctrine. It's just somebody invading your house.
Oh, so that guy who put the automatic shot, made it so that when you open the door, the shotgun fires. Like that's not castle doctrine.
Yeah. Classic law school case. That guy got in trouble for that. Yeah, you can't do that. Which, by the way, I think you should be able to do that if you're
booby trapping.
Inside your property. You should be able to booby trap the inside of your house. 100%.
Can you booby trap your car?
Yeah, I think the idea is for like it is like literal, just like.
Well, then why did you bring up the whole? You have to be in a thing. Yeah, apparently you don't have to be in it.
Well, no, legally it's the case that like legally you can't have booby traps and your castle doctrine applies if you're in the car or in the house. I'm just saying it should be the case. I think in Texas, in Texas, for example, is one of the most lenient states on defense.
In Texas, somebody can just look at you wrong.
No, I think in Texas is one of it might be the only state. Don't take this as like legal advice. I'm pretty sure in Texas you can use lethal force to defend your property. Like we
had that guy who shot somebody just for touching his car because they were protesters walking by. One guy touched his car and the guy in the car just murders him. And he was found guilty, to be fair, under Texas law. But then our governor pardoned him.
I'm thinking if I wake up in the morning and I hear my car starting and I run out and there's somebody driving away with my car, I think it's reasonable to shoot at that person.
Really?
I think it should be legal. It's not now
in the back.
In most America. Because he's still my fucking car, dude. He's gonna get away.
Wait. So just call the cops, report a claim.
Oh, just call the cops. Yeah, they're gonna do something about it.
Whoa, that's what we're paying them for as taxpayers.
Oh yeah, they're definitely gonna do something. Yeah.
Wait. So you don't trust the cops enough to do their job, but I should trust their judgment when they come to me and tell me anything?
I trust them to do sometimes their job, but a call of a stolen car in the middle of the night. The likelihood of them recovering that, I think there's stats on this. The likelihood of them recovering your stolen car is very low.
The likelihood of finding a murder in Detroit is low too. Should they just
If I see a murder, or if I'm the victim of murder, or someone I know is a victim of murder, I want the cops to show up for that. Yeah.
Yeah, but they don't. That's what I'm saying. Is
for a murder, they do.
I've been in Detroit where I've witnessed an accident happen. We called the cops. It was a bad accident, and 4 hours, just no show up. They just
yes, I know, but for a murder, I think they'll show up pretty quickly for that one. Everywhere.
Yeah, but Ali, to be fair, what religion are you?
I go by Alex on the phone when I call the police.
Well, hold on. You're a white Christian passing.
Yeah, well, 100%. My Sunday's off. I don't work Sundays at any job I ever work. Religious exemption.
Aren't you guys making the argument for more cops right now? Just to be clear.
What? Why?
Because with more cops, you have a faster response time, and they're more likely to respond to your calls.
I mean, with the amount of cops that they have, there's no response time, so no, not really. I don't think
when
cops
I
do
was
their
growing
job.
up,
I think the
You think
average
cops do
person.
nothing all day?
I think the average person is apathetic to their job, right? I don't think anyone really finds like much passion in like the job that they're working after 2 or 3 years, especially if they see no ROI. And like cop is like the lowest ROI job on earth, whether it be like appreciation or like pay, right? And so yeah, I think a lot of them are just apathetic and just kind of half-ass their job.
to be fair,
a big
when I
problem
was
is too is
growing up,
they're union protected. That's a big problem too.
Well,
when I was growing up, the sign of structural racism wasn't that there are too many cops in black neighborhoods. It was that there weren't enough. It was that you couldn't get a response time when you called the cops, but white people could call them in and be at their house instantly.
Well, I think
it was not enough cops in
bill.
black neighborhoods was the big complaint.
Yep.
Now we hear the opposite complaint, but yeah, it is
Well,
true
wait,
that
wait,
that
Well,
changes.
wait,
I think
I goes
the complaint-
100% right on this.
Well, no, wait, hold on. I think the complaint would be, hey, we're black. When we call, the cops don't show up, regardless of whether or not they are available or not, right? And so they show up in white communities. So it's not that there's like more, like, yeah, the issue maybe was like advertised as like, no, we need more cops because they're not answering and they're too busy. But like, and the reality of the situation is like, we just need cops to do their jobs in these like areas. And they're just, if once again, it feels like, at least to the communities, in a lot of communities, that like, cops kind of just half-ass their job.
The problem is that the cops it's not like whether there's too many of them or too few of them. It's whether the cops care and respect the community, right? Like if there is too few cops and they don't respond when it calls because they don't give a fuck if you die, right? Like if like violent crime is happening. If there's too many cops and what those cops are doing is over policing you, right? Like the doing the bad kind of stop and frisk that electorate doesn't like, right? Or just like generally harassing people, making people feel unsafe, then like the issue isn't that they have too many, it's that like now that they're in the neighborhood, right, rather not being in there, they'd rather not be in there. Not that they're there, they're going to use that time to bump up their quotas or just to have fun fucking around with the community, right? So like that's like the real issue. But like it makes sense that from an advocacy perspective, right? At first you would say, well, there's no cops here, right? Thinking that if only we had police, things would be better. Not understanding what the real problem is, and then later on, like saying, "Oh, there's too many police." It's not that like these people don't understand what the problem is, right? And they just don't know what they want. It's that like the expressing that problem, at least on the national level, came out as too few cops. Right? Maybe on the local level, people understood what the situation was, but on the national level, like the ask that like landed on legislators' desk was about like putting more there, right?
Well, that's nicer. That's a better sell than like, hey, the cops need to do their jobs. Or the cops need to be not
more.
apathetic to the community.
Like, and it's like, well, what do you want us to do? How do you want us to make the cops care more, right? Like, it's an either simply direct ask to say, put more cops in the neighborhood than otherwise, right? Than to like, make them loving, make them love us. So. Yeah, and I think
the idea would be higher in the community, right? Like you hire cops within the community, so on and so forth. But
I think it was a reasonable ask. I think that we tend to look back in the '90s and like the efforts to strengthen crime prevention and to put more cops in the streets and to do all these things. We tend to look at this from the current perspective, where our crime rate is significantly lower than it was in the '90s. The '90s, like, were good for some reasons, but especially in like the early '90s, the crime rate was astronomically higher compared to where it is now, and it was incredibly dangerous to be on the street. And there was a lot of people in these communities that were sick and tired of being victimized constantly. And Ike was 100% right. If you go back and look at of the advertising and what the legislators were saying at the time of like the crime bill, for example, a lot of it was like coming from the Black community, because oftentimes they were victims of this crime. And they were sick of it, and they were saying, "No, this is bullshit. Yeah. We got to have cops here to prevent people from."
I agree with you.
That's not what I was disagreeing with.
I know. I just think that, like, for me,
like, obviously they wanted more cops because they want the cops to do their jobs.
I'm great on improving government metrics. If we want to, for example, if Elon could send all the cops an email saying that they have to respond to the five things they've done this week, otherwise they get fired. I'm fine with that. I think we should
just going to run this country, brother.
We should make cops do their job. Here's how
Did
you
Elon say that to cops?
not to cops, but to
No,
some federal
of course
workers.
not.
Yeah. Here's how you solve the problem with cops. Okay. Lactoid's 3-point proposal: end the drug war, so they're focusing on only real crimes. End the police unions, so that the good ones don't stick around because they're unionized. And then 3 would be to.
I think we all agree with that one.
Yeah, and then the third one is, we try to do this now, but just make sure that police resources are distributed along lines of crime areas as opposed to other kind of considerations, like political considerations.
My only issue with, and I've told you this
Property.
before, is that in terms of police unions, is that I'm fine with disbanding police unions, right? Like I don't have any loyalty to fucking police unions, right? Like the worst of the worst.
You get rid of all unions, right, Prime?
My only issue is that even police, right, who I think are all bastards, deserve protections within the workplace, especially in terms of protection from their bosses. So as long as they have some way of advocating for themselves, or having some level of protection, from unreasonable ask or abusive bosses, right? That really exists. I mean, ask female cops, right? That shit really does exist. Then I'm fine, right? As long as we have some mechanism in place for them, then I'm okay. Not that the police using can impose their will on the city the way it is now, but some sort of way to advocate for themselves in the workplace, then I'd be okay. Call it something else, it's fine. What?
While I have you here, will you engage with a hypothetical?
I will engage with any hypothetical. Go ahead.
Based
He
okay.
will. He will.
And by the way, as long as it's TOS and Twitch, and I will grant any premise you want me to grant is true. I'll just grant it.
Yeah. I'm never going I never do crazy. I respect your guys' TOS too much. I never want to, disturb anyone's money. But
you see, Connor got Rob Noor banned the other day.
Yeah, because he's a fucking idiot. He's a moron.
I thought you were going to say the word that got him banned.
No, because he's a fucking idiot. And honestly, I've lost too much respect for that guy, bro.
Which one of them is?
Yeah,
the
which
idiot?
one?
Counterpoints. Counterpoints is a moron. I'm sorry, dude. That dude's crashing the fuck out for I don't know what reason, and he needs to stop.
He did say the F slur 10
yeah,
times
with
the hard T
everywhere. He keeps
on Twitch, and he got Rob banned. Yeah,
and he's just on Twitter dropping the N-bomb all the time. It's brother, I'm sorry. And the whole
what did Rob do?
He had a conversation with him. And
they were insulting each other, both of them. But Rob was insulting him using TOS friendly terms.
Yeah,
and
ergo okay.
Well, I'm not saying it was okay. The slurs were predictable, but you don't slur on Twitch.
No, I'm okay with people arguing and people saying.
But also, to be fair,
to each other, but
self-banned. He didn't get robbed.
He got them both banned. Yeah.
Prime for future reference, I promise to always use TOS friendly slurs against you. Okay,
that's awesome.
That's all we ask for.
We should stick to that. But no, this isn't about that. But it's
I'm a wild card.
So with Trump,
I'll go look some up right now.
I'm off Twitter, but Trump's tweeted a few crazy things. I know not the the president, the picture with him wearing a crown and so far was
fine. That was fine.
I don't think so. But anyways, once again, as just a normie who's just looking at the thing, it seems like we're gonna have a king and a prince, right? If this happens, right? If oligarchy takes over and no more democracy, here we are, full republic, but low key, there's a king there and Barron takes over the next.
I'm not sure we'd be a full republic at that point, but yeah.
A republic in the way that MAGA sees it. Their side,
a MAGA republic.
The person they want as king, their elected king, is basically what I feel like the MAGA republic is.
One could say king. A philosopher king, perhaps.
Sure, but
you're elected once per lifetime, right? Not every 4 years.
Yeah. You're elected once. This is their king, but they elected the king. It wasn't original birthright. It was
what was the question?
how do you feel? I want to know, like, because listen, man.
How do I
Listen, man,
feel
How
about
do you feel?
about not having elections again?
how do you feel if it's like a big slap in the face? Because I feel like that's like everything you don't want.
I mean,
don't
he
think
is
you
the
want
king
Trump
of
as
rug
king.
pulls.
Yeah, look, I am opposed to this idea. What the question? You're asking me if I would be okay with the suspension of future elections.
Now
and
would you
Trump
be
becoming
okay? But
king of America?
what do you do if you what do you do? How do you feel as the person who voted this guy in and then destroyed your country?
I look.
How do you
I would have
empathize
egg
with
on
that?
my
How do you deal
face.
with that?
I'd feel very
You'd
embarrassed.
have an
I would have
egg on your face, you
I would
think?
feel very embarrassed.
That's it? You feel embarrassed?
If Trump becomes the unilateral dictator of the entire government, I would feel very embarrassed. Yes.
That's it. Just
I
embarrassed.
might blush a little bit.
Would you?
What do you want me to do? I can't take on the government.
Do the but her emails meme. That's what you do.
Yeah, I'll complain.
Oh.
I'll make very angry tweets. But like, I'm not about to go get drone
I
bombed over it.
I would never tweet again.
Would you ever say you
your
regret voting
opinion's
for
done?
Trump?
Hold on. Yes.
Okay.
That's what
enough.
that's what embarrassment would mean,
Does
right?
does a civil war happen? Do you think, or no? Do you think people actually
No.
fight against us, or do you think we let it happen? No. If he makes himself king.
If the
Yeah.
king.
Like, do you think the Americans are just gonna go along with it and just be like, fuck it, Europe has one?
If he unilaterally declares himself king of America and suspends the Constitution and suspends the three branches of government, I don't
He's
know.
already said that he wants to do that.
How much of MAGA supports it, right? These are it's like this is I seriously feel like at least
there's some
a third of MAGA's down for King Trump.
I will agree. Like a third of MAGA would probably do that. I don't think that that would be sufficient. I don't think that's sufficient support for that to do it without a considerable backlash that would destroy him.
Okay, and you're also okay with everything that Elon's doing? See, for reals?
Oh yeah, Elon's great. Name one thing. Name one thing.
Just some random dude coming
The
in,
rug pull.
going through every single thing.
You know, Elon was behind that.
Yeah,
Elon. No. I
sure he makes
criticized the
some
rug
money.
pull. That wasn't
For sure Elon's making astounding amounts of money off of this. There's no way that him being in control of observing all of the funds of the world is
Yeah.
I don't think that's a good thing. But a random South African dude, not American. He's not an American.
He made many billions so far off of this.
He has security clearance.
I don't give a fuck
He's
what he is.
in the rocket industry in America. He is an American.
That's like you were Corey having clearance.
This is a very natalist position you have. What, you're only American? You're born in America?
Yeah. To have this much clearance in government? A little bit. To have this much power over Americans? Yeah, kind of a little bit. I want you to have a little bit more.
I think if you're a naturalized citizen,
then just have a country you can dip back.
No, it is true that one of the reasons why he wasn't named an employee, he's not actually technically considered an employee of Doge, and one of the reported reasons is because if they actually made him an employee of the federal government, there's certain levels of clearance that he would have to pass that he doesn't already have. I know he's a defense contractor. I know he has a lot of different levels of clearance, but he doesn't have all of them. And to be talking about the kinds of things that he's talking about with the president would require a higher level of clearance than he currently has, and they don't want the headache of having to prove that he could pass that. So they're just saying he doesn't work for the government. He's just some guy who has a conversation with Trump sometimes. That's it.
Right, but those Doge employees they're special.
Yes,
they're SGEs of the Treasury.
Yes,
so they are.
They have to pass the clearance, but Elon doesn't.
That's for sure. That's as long as they're the ones that are viewing the information and they pass the clearance because they're SGEs. I'm fine with that.
But doesn't he get to view the information?
Pause.
He does not get to
pause. I don't feel like talking about Elon. We're gonna do it. Trust me. We're not done with the Elon conversation. We're gonna have a big fight, Lacto and I, about Elon.
Can I defend the King tweet at least?
Very briefly. I was saying it seemed like we were just chatting. Prime, my bad.
No. I'm not blaming you. No, it's fine. It's fine. I just I don't want to talk about Elon unless I absolutely have to talk about Elon because I have to think about Elon all the goddamn time because he's at the center of history.
I mean, I don't like him either, man.
But Lactoid, go ahead. Right. Sorry.
I think he's great. But no, the King tweet that everyone was freaking out about, what that tweet was specifically in regards to Manhattan congestion, right?
Yeah.
And Trump is known as the King of New York. I can link you articles from February.
No, I know.
So long live the King of New York. Yeah. When he's referencing Manhattan congestion, this has nothing to do with him being king of the U.S.
I don't think it's wise for a president to be I've always said this. I don't think it's good for presidents to like make insane amounts of tweets and like tweet in this fashion, like particularly because like one, you do have a bunch of like you have fans. You don't have like constituents. You have a lot of fans, and that's kind of like it's not so much that you're gonna get like Hitler directly. It's that the ego of that isn't good, and homie can attempt to be like this thing before
that's the least of it. So like it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It can't be New York. How that matters, right? Like we understand the implications of this, and Fox News would understand the implications of this if Barack Obama had done it, right? Like that's all you have to do. Like really, like from the beginning of this administration to the end of it, right? Just replace Trump with Obama, and like wonder how Fox News would have reacted, how conservatives writ large would have reacted, right? So let's not bullshit each other about that. Like especially like this coming from the White House Twitter account saying that like they endorse this idea. It wasn't even his personal Twitter account. The White House official government. Imagine Obama like them tweeting a picture of Obama. Like they would blow the heads literally exploding, right? Literally detonating on set if that had happened. Yeah. But now we're gonna pretend that this is it's just being playful, right? What's the big deal?
Remember when Obama said, "I have my pen and I have my phone"? Yeah. They took that to mean that he was a king.
Yeah.
This is the problem when you're like, okay, yes, the talking heads were ridiculous. They are consistently
and MAGA
ridiculous.
in general.
It wasn't just MAGA that was attacking Obama for liking Dijon mustard as opposed to regular mustard, or attacking him for wearing a tan suit.
Remember that? All of Republicans, yeah. And that was all Republicans.
It was not all Republicans.
Hold on,
there's a lot of them. You can't do
don't do the all thing. There are. Hold on.
You have to understand what people mean when they say all.
Yes.
You have to understand what people mean when they say all. Don't do the thing. Don't do that.
No. I'm being very. The reason why I think all is important to distinguish here is because there is this sort of dark MSNBC crowd that is doing this shit with Trump, where it's like they're clipping videos of Elon to make him seem like a bad parent. Like, did you guys see that? Where it's like apparently he abandons his kid on stage when he absolutely doesn't.
No, they just have to look at his Twitter account.
If you include
baby mama
accounts, then they know he's a bad parent. But whatever.
Hold on. If you look at the rest, if you look at the rest of that video, it's very clear that it was deceptively edited.
I don't know what this is. I believe you.
Okay, yeah. And then when you look at like the freak out about like the King of New York tweet, there are people who
the Napoleon
tweet. Yes, I think that could be interpreted very differently than, of course, the way that the alarmists were interpreting that. And I think that there's a group of people who make a living off of panicking about whatever their political opponent says and catastrophizing it and making it look like this person's terrible. And the right has that group of people too. The criticisms against Obama sometimes were okay, but most I'm not going to say like differentiate between most of the time or some of the time. Like some of them were crazy. Like the Dijon mustard critique was dumb as hell. The tan suit critique was dumb as hell. The whole like conspiracy theory about like Michelle Obama being a man, that's still ongoing, and I don't understand what the fucking point is, right? There are absolutely.
What if he didn't have a dog in the White House?
But here's the thing.
That Muslim thing would have went crazy.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I never participated in those dumb critiques, and I think they're dumb, and I'm calling them dumb openly because you should be able to call out dumb behavior on both sides.
Sure. So a president that tweets that a man who saves his country commits no crime means that he cannot commit a crime. Like it's impossible. It's he's doing the Nixon quote, right? About because I'm president, it means that nothing can be a crime. That he's doing it again, but he's at least after Nixon said it, he like walked it back. And here, Trump is very clearly means that the same thing that Napoleon means in the movie about Napoleon.
Of course,
he said the exact same quote.
Of course, it is. Hold on. He's already stated.
Why else would he quote it?
Literally,
this was like a day or two after he specifically said that he will always abide by the courts, whatever they decide. He was disagreeing with the court decision here. He was saying, "Fuck you guys! I cannot have been breaking the law here because I was saving my country. What are you guys doing?" He's going to abide by the courts.
Yeah,
there's no evidence that he has.
Lag to it. Actually, there is evidence he has it. Like there is a they have been held in contempt of court for not
No,
following
no,
a court
no. They
order.
have not been held in contempt of court. That is not true.
Yeah.
There was one. There was one court that specifically did not hold him in contempt. They told him that he wasn't complying with the TRO. That's not the same thing as holding somebody in contempt.
Oh, I'm sorry. He wasn't complying
Well, no,
with the court order. Sorry, excuse me.
This is important because the response from the Trump administration here was specifically, please clarify your order because we're trying to comply. We've already had communications with the prosecutor or the other side here in order to comply with this order. And apparently we're fucking up and not complying with the order. So please, and by the way, and the lower court was ordered, the appellate court said that the lower court had to clarify their decision. And there was no contempt being found. The administration was not found to be flaunting or disregarding or defying the court. It's accidentally breaking the law is not the same thing as defying the court. And we should all accept this because Biden has broken the law many times.
Sure, agreed. Donald Trump, Joe Biden refused to follow the law in the United States, right? Yeah, he refused to execute the laws, like the Leahy Act, right? And he allowed for a genocide to take place, and there was no consequences that he unleashed on this other country. He was in contravention of U.S. law, right? There should be consequences for Joe Biden.
Should he get in trouble for trying the student loan thing?
I don't know. I don't know enough about the situation. Hold on. Hold on. Let me get my point out here. My point is that the problem with Trump is that Trump has literally the basis of his campaign is that America's in crisis, right? And that he is riding the ship right now. Politicians say this to a certain extent all the time, but the whole thing is that America is teetering on the edge, according to his view, right, to his followers. America is teetering on the edge, and if not for the broad shoulders of Donald Trump, right, we'd already fallen to the abyss. And in that light, right, then he sends that quote out. That if I'm saving the country, I can't break the law. Actually, that does carry different weight. Yeah, it does.
Hold on. Not when it's like a day or two after he specifically said he would abide by the courts, and it was in replying to a lower court decision that ruled against him. The interpretation of that is most, I think, obvious is he disagrees with the court's ruling. He does not to a lawyer. He does not think that the court should have ruled the way it has, but he's going to follow the court's decision. When you read the pleadings,
how is that when you
read the defendants' briefs,
yes,
in that TRO case, they are they're saying, please clarify, we want to follow this. We'll do anything we can to follow this. Because yes, there is a affirmative attempt being made to follow the court's direction. This is what happened. This is what every fucking president should be doing. When I don't think Biden did anything wrong by trying the student loan thing and then the court striking it down. Technically, the policy was illegal because the court struck it down. Yeah, this is how the court operates, right? The president tries to do something outside of the law, and then the court strikes it down if it is outside the law. Yeah. The only problem happens when the president directly and overtly disobeys the court, and Trump has not done that. This hasn't happened.
Now you're right. You are correct, right? Everything you said was correct. I have no argument to it. But when he tweets that out to millions of people, right? My new portion of them know any of this. All they see is the tweet, and now they're making their inferences. So the obvious inference of this to a lawyer, sure, is that he was speaking about this specific case 2 days after when he said this and that. But to the masses, it's just him saying that there's no breaking the law if you're saving the country, so I can just do whatever I want. When you tweet a picture of yourself wearing a crown, yeah, obviously we all know he's the king of New York, but you're also sitting president right now. So there's a different spin on that when you're tweeting these things and you're posting these things. So it's I get that yes, technically in a court of law and how you as a lawyer interprets it, but you got to put yourself in the average person's shoes sometimes.
That's fair.
So, yeah,
wait, that's totally fair. And this is, by the way, why that Napoleon quote, I said it was bad. Because even though I know what he meant, and I'm not concerned that he's going to try to become Napoleon or Hitler or whatever the fuck.
Well,
I agree that like optics do matter when you're the leader of the free world, and the fact that there are people that are looking at this and interpreting it this way, even people who maybe aren't like all the way against him, I think is proof that probably was a bad tweet.
But I feel like Trump's greatest like move. I'm sorry, I'll let you get in right after this. I feel like Trump's greatest move is that he leaks a plan. He does the Drake method, right? He leaks the song and he sees if people fuck with the song or not, and then he goes with the vibe. So he drops a tweet where he knows like the masses are going to interpret it a certain way, and he's like, are the Democrats winning in the argument on this, or is MAGA winning on this? And if MAGA's winning on this, and I get to say things like, if the president saves the country, there's no law broken, whatever he tweeted specifically, I don't know, but like it kind of seems like that's what he'll then roll with. Like he tests out, he vibe checks. He goes, hey, are people like agreeing with my statement? Cool. And if most of MAGA agrees with the statement, and these are the people that are voting for him, and these are the constituents, it's like, yeah, he kind of will enact the thing that he's tweeting. My bad, Akal, you can go ahead.
Your mic's
off. You're muted.
Sorry, what about the other tweet where he said no judge should be able to overrule like the things that I do? Like, what about that one?
Isn't that Vance?
No. Vance backed it up later with his own, but
Okay.
the original quote was from Trump.
Who the fuck is Vance?
Yeah, well,
Vance.
I think he specifically said like
he's the guy who thinks he's vice president.
I was about to say, who's JD Vance? I don't.
Yeah.
So if you're talking about the one where he's saying that court shouldn't have the authority, or court shouldn't stop me if I'm doing something.
He said no judge should be able to like.
I need
his decision.
I remember seeing that, but I think that legally he's accurate. Like he has to abide by the courts.
Wait a minute. If the courts say he's wrong, well, no, because it was the court's ruling that he was responding to. So basically, he was saying that court shouldn't be allowed to make a ruling that would stop him from firing a whole bunch of like federal employees.
No,
even though
I need the reason why I need the exact tweet is because, like, if I recall correctly, he's going to abide by the court, but when he's saying the court shouldn't do this, he's right in the sense that, like, for example, in Trump versus United States, the Supreme Court ruled that both Congress and the courts can't stop the president from exercising.
Okay, here's the quote. No judge should, frankly, be allowed to make that kind of decision.
That's the full quote. That decision.
Because he was responding to something else that Vance had said earlier, which is I think both of them.
Yeah,
but no judge should, frankly, be allowed to make that kind of decision, and he was responding to a decision that was already made by a U.S. court. So he was basically challenging the authority of that court to make the decision.
What was the thing?
It was basically he fired a bunch of federal employees because of Doge, and then the court put that on pause and said that we need to look into some stuff before we can determine whether or not you're allowed to fire them. And then that's when he said no judge should, frankly, be allowed to make that kind of a decision.
All right, I'll have to look exactly what he's referring to.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So
take it away, Prime.
I can send you a link.
All right. Well, why don't we end things here in that case. Thanks all for coming through. Thank you, Sean and Lawrence Harrison, for supporting the channel. Okay. I'll send you guys off to, let's find a person to send you guys off to.
It's in the group DM.
Let's see. We're going to raid who is around and possibly do I have any cuties around here? Hey, and to everyone, we've been doing some like react streams, so I hope you guys been enjoying those. Like we're like, you know, watching political stuff and then reacting to it. So I'd like to do more of that. So hopefully you guys will join us for that. In fact, Aiko was with us excuse me, the one time, and that was a lot of fun. And so we plan on doing more of those. Um. This person I think is streaming in Spanish, but she seems cute, right? So oh fuck, what happened? Oh, yeah, okay. So we're gonna send you all off to this Spanish speaker person. I'm sure they're great. So
They have to be if they're cute.
they have to be, right? In fact, we're just talking about how hot Latin and Middle Eastern women were, right? So we're gonna back that
Shout
up
out
and
to
we're
the
gonna support
squad.
them. If only she was in like some sort of a job type thing, then that would be